All right, this episode of the podcast, I am here with a Saline, Ann Arbor area photographer, videographer. I've worked with him before. I've done a video on him. He's shot my wedding, did photography and video for my wedding. We bumped into each other on multiple occasions. I was in a short film of his. I am here today with Eze Enriquez.
Enriquez. We're gonna get dramatic on this one.
Thanks for making the drive in the storm, man. It's
No,
good to have
thanks.
you out.
No, this is great.
So as always, I like to kind of start with, let's start from baby Eze.
Ooh, wah, wah, wah. Baby essay. Okay.
I've seen video. I've seen footage of you with the old like Sony cameras. My cousin used to have. He was in video before me, so I know you've been doing video for a long time.
Yeah, quite a while.
Like since you were in Argentina, right?
So no. I started doing photography when I was in Argentina with disposable cameras and things like that. And I always had a little more of a strange eye than just a regular person taking a picture. Mm-hmm. Different things interest me. More just sky photography, wet ground, pigeons, birds, those kind of things. Little details. When I came to the United States, actually, I started filming with an old VHS tape. My brother and I used to make little, almost Food Network episodes back in the day, and also investigative pieces, very important
Two
pieces.
VCRs stacked together.
Exactly,
right.
Yeah. We used to, one of the pieces that we came up together was that our stepsister was supposed to come over every weekend to clean up her dog poop because she had a dog at my parents' house.
Right.
And she didn't show up that often. So my brother and I decided to do an investigative piece on all the turds left around from the dog, from how old they were to how big they were, and document it all on video. So that's what I was doing back in the day when I was a little, young kid.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of acting, that's originally was my passion, was, not so much being behind the camera, but in front of the camera.
Did the investigative work into the poop in the backyard end up going anywhere?
She never got in trouble. My parents laughed. That's it. My parents had a good laugh on that one.
Yeah.
But that didn't go nowhere.
Like this one looks like it's at least 3 weeks old, which is odd because
The whiteness.
our sister was just here.
Yeah. How yeah, never mind. We're not even going to get into that. But yeah, you can only imagine that as a
Me and my
13-year-old,
cousin, we always had, we were shooting short films on his parents' camcorders going back to when we were 12, 11, we'd make up the goofiest scripts, just make them as we went. We would just make it up. Like, it'd be funny if he popped out here, did this, and then he would edit. And
it's a lot of fun when you're younger.
Fun being able to grow up with cameras because, the generation before us didn't get that.
Yeah.
In any form. So, we might have been editing VCR to VCR and
that was a
all
tough
that
one.
stuff,
That was the VCR to VCR thing was tough back in the day. My first short film was, I think, if I remember correctly, the plot point was something along the lines of, it was the return of Jesus, but he came back in the middle of a drug deal and ends up getting kidnapped. And we had to cut VHS to VHS tape.
Yeah.
Hit play on one, hit record on the other, get that little shot that you wanted, then let it play to the other part, record that, and it came out horrible. You had those lines that would just, show up in between the cuts. Very amateur stuff, but a great way of learning, just taking a camera and,
I did a
going
lot
out
of
there.
immature stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the best stuff was just things that were made up oh, come out, shoot some videos. And then we just make it up as we went. No planning. Like we would now, we're trying to do short films and go in the film festivals and we're doing all this planning. But we had one that was, it wouldn't have flew like the last couple years probably, but it was like, what if ISIS was under new management and the guy was into yoga, and then so they didn't like the direction of new management and we were speaking with accents but it was just a hilarious video. But I look at that now. I watched it 2 years ago. I was like, you got to keep this buried on the internet.
Yeah. Some of your old stuff you want to make disappear.
Right.
I have a pretty open mind and just, leaving some of that old work up there on YouTube and stuff just because.
What's your path? I think you shouldn't be embarrassed. You change, things happen. It's different times. I like seeing that somebody has a history versus kind of trying to curate it or where they are today.
Yeah.
Going back and deleting parts of their life.
One of the cameras that we're talking about cameras now, after VHS came my mini DV era. And during that era, I met a filmmaker here from Michigan as well named David Lear. With David Lear, I ended up with him just shooting a lot of short comedy skits that today they would be considered inappropriate,
right?
Politically incorrect.
A lot of comedy would, that happens.
Yeah,
it's always walking a line.
Yeah,
for whatever time it was created. And sometimes that line is crossed if you watch it 5 years later. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And it's too sad. Obviously, they're still up there. They're still online.
Right.
But yeah, I shouldn't really get in trouble for something that, I did as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old or 17-year-old. So, and I'm still not very politically correct, people, so don't,
I actually did like a fun thing. Just, I made myself one of those Linktree websites, it's just like Mike at mimediahouse.com, but it's got my, photo on there, a little stupid unicycle video in the background, and then like links. But if you click on my face, it takes you to like a playlist with all my like goofy skits videos.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's kind of like hidden there. So I could tell like a friend, like, oh, you can't, where's that funny video we did a long time ago? I could just tell them like, I got them all right here.
Yeah.
You can watch them all.
Yeah, you still want to share it.
Yeah.
You still want to go back and remember those days as well.
Yeah, so it's like a little
because again, back in the day, we were doing a lot more stuff just for us.
Yeah.
Right. Where now it's more oriented towards the client,
right.
towards somebody else's vision. So it's just, again, it's nice to have that to at least look back on.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that stuff I shot, or I'm sure you're in the same way. Like I had a skit where I shot like a fight scene with my buddies, and that was just because I wanted to learn how to shoot a fight scene. I'd watched some videos on the internet, and I was like, I think I get how to move the camera and, how to make it look convincing. Let's see if I can pull it off. And then I'd write a script just to be able to shoot a fight scene.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, you just do the Jason Bourne thing and just just move everywhere with the camera, up and down while in the middle of the fight scene. So you're good.
As the action.
I'm not knocking Jason Bourne, the cinematographer, great guy.
But I mean, a lot of it's all moving with the punches and stuff. But
yeah.
A lot of like good action editors, they mix in just, just take your camera on the same scene and whip it a bunch and cut those in during the fight scene, and now it looks intense.
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan though of just letting it play out.
Yeah.
I remember what was it that Daredevil when it first came out, that I think opening fight scene that was just a one-shotter nonstop. I mean, that to me was amazing because you have to get it perfectly right, on camera. So it's just nice. Obviously it's always nice to get different angles to allow your editor to do whatever the editor wants to do as well. So
there's an amazing, speaking of one shotters, there's one in this movie called The Protector. It was like the guy's like protecting this elephant, but it's just a crazy martial arts movie. And there's a shot that just goes through this entire building, up the stairs. He comes down a couple floors, goes back up the floors, and it's all one take.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the most amazing like one take fight scenes I've ever seen.
That requires some talent, man, from everyone, from the entire crew, not just the actors and the cinematographer, but the entire crew.
One person doesn't tie their shoes, it's back to one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
They chip.
Especially when you're going back to one. Especially if you're like a what do they call them? A one-day player, where you're just showing up on set for one day. Yeah. And you have to just deliver that. Yeah. No one knows you on set. You don't know anyone else on set. And it's like you got to deliver your one line or your one punch. If you don't get it right, they got to stop everything, and you're sitting there like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. They're going to fire me.
And that scene I'm talking about, they were breaking glass, breaking chairs. Yeah. So that's not an easy back to one. It probably takes 2 hours to get back to
reset
ready for
everything.
Another take, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to do any more short films?
I don't know. I had the obviously, yeah. So I still have the mentality that even if I'm doing a lot of things for clients, I need to do something for myself at least once a year, once every 2 years. Right. Now, the short film that you were in, the last one that I did with Marla, funny thing about that one is that it wasn't supposed to be a short film. It was just supposed to be my friend saying, hey, do you want to go out with me? I got this new camera. I want to test it out.
Right.
So we decided, oh, yeah, well, let's get together and test out this camera and this lens, see how it works. One thing led to another. Say, well, let's do it at this location over here that looks vintage with an old gas pump. Right. And I said, well, maybe I can get some, girl twirling around or doing some ballerina in the middle of the field. And I thought to myself, all right, how many people have done that already? So I said, okay, well, let's find a vintage car. Found a vintage car. And I said, oh, okay, well, let's find some actors. Right. So it's like at that point the story started developing story. There's not much of a story in it, because again we were just supposed to show up there and just test out the camera, right? And within a week we decided to put this whole short film together just because I had access to a vintage, area and a vintage car, vintage outfits. So yeah, one thing just led to another. That's why I was, when you look at that short film, the attendant, it says part 1. It was never supposed to be part 1. It was just supposed to be, just a day out shooting for fun. But yeah, it turned out into something semi-okay, that I kind of like looking back at.
I enjoy shooting and editing dialogue. I mean, we didn't have too much dialogue in that as far as back and forth, but even the other day I shot a fun little skit for a local restaurant, and I doing some over the shoulder shots, like a normal dialogue scene. I was like, oh man, this is the kind of stuff I like to do, because it's so fun when, even if you're shooting with one camera, it's so fun for the pacing to be editing dialogue. You can really do a lot with the pacing and editing, and it's just fun to do.
Yeah,
it's so different than just chopping up an interview.
Well, you've shot weddings, just like I've shot weddings, so of just the capturing B-roll the entire day, and pretty much almost editing just B-roll the entire
slow-mo music and
exactly
just making.
And it's like, no, I want some over-the-shoulder shots. I want some dialogue. I want I want the actors to give me a little bit of different take every time that we get a take. Give me something a little different, so where when I get into the editing bay, I can actually look at it and say, all right, you know what? This works a little better for the pacing than this. The way that she delivered this or he delivered that.
When you do shorts, you realize like how important a team is, because like the next short I do, I would really like to kind of step back from. I mean, I still want to weigh in on the cinematography and the shots, but I'd like to be able to sit there with a big monitor with the receiving the signals, look at it, and just focus in on directing. I feel like a lot of local independent filmmakers they're trying to do too many things. They're trying to be the director, cinematographer. And if you're toying with your camera, you're not focusing on acting. And a lot of people kind of sacrifice on the directors. There's not somebody sitting there just looking at the actors, actresses, and trying to direct to get their vision out of them.
I've been in that situation.
And I feel like it's huge for the actors to get direction.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice, again, to get to a point in your career where you can focus more on that. Again, with photography, once you reach a certain point of your photography career, you're going to start working with people like Adidas or Nike.
Right.
You're doing those photo shoots. You better first capture it right on camera, because you're not editing that photo shoot. Their agency in New York's editing that photo shoot. Same thing when I worked with Nissan. I'm not editing all the Nissan stuff. That's going out. Right. I don't know what's happening to it, how the final product's going to look. So I try to get it right on camera more than just hope, let's fix it in post kind of mentality. Now,
is that usually like giving them your entire daily, like everything you shot that day?
Yeah.
Are you able to, I know that was bad, let's delete some of these? Or do they kind of just want them all?
No, I give them all.
Yeah.
They understand.
Yeah.
That there's going to be, some mistakes here, mistakes there, pushing the camera down the track and all of a sudden it jolts for some reason, or you happen to just hit record when you weren't supposed to. So I like giving them all that footage. The reason why is because the only time that I ever got into a confrontation with a client, let's say just a back and forth with a client, was because I was supposed to deliver all the raw footage, and I deleted one clip. Now, the one clip that I deleted...
The number is off. They're like, just one missing.
The one clip, exactly. They went number by number by number and found that one. Now, that happened to be when, back in the day, I was doing a lot of handheld stuff, and I had the camera against here. It was a 5D Mark II. So the record button was in the back. That clip was of me, boom, bouncing like this, walking into the bathroom.
Right.
So it was a clip that I did not know the camera was recording.
Well, they actually got into you about that and tried to
try to get that clip. And I'm like, you guys are not understanding. It's me in the bathroom. I don't think you want to see that. Like, the camera's hanging right here. Like, it was like the toilet. You know what I mean? The thing that, what do you guys call it?
You should have just shot a new shot with like you taking a piss and then just sent it with the same number on it. And been like, here you go.
Well, I had no idea that I even recorded that until like later on you're walking around and then you're like, oh, why is it recording?
I've recorded those or like pocket recordings. With I've done that a lot.
Yeah. So now I hand them over everything, and once in a while I'll even go in and cut the best of the best and create a whole separate file of just the best B-roll footage.
Try to help them out with curating.
Yeah. So that the editor doesn't have to sit there and be like, oh my God. Just let me first watch this, which is all the best clips. If I like that, I'm just going to take it right from there.
Right.
So.
I would appreciate that if I was the editor. Of course, now you can skim through so fast. I got that little speed editor thing, and, so it'll go from clip to clip as you keep, you can scroll as fast as you want.
Oh, so you got like a wheel. Gotcha,
Just the little gray resolve speed editor. But that's huge for just bringing things down to the timeline and just scrolling through quick. All the footage. Also, not lagging too, because my old computers used to I wouldn't be able to skim over it. It would just lag and stuff.
Just stop all the time. No, it's always nice also to do that for editors, because keep in mind that you're not editing it yourself, right? So when you and I are shooting weddings and we edit the wedding video, we were there.
Right.
We know almost every shot. We probably even remember that first take that I went and I started pulling on the camera. I remember it didn't work. So let me just skip to the second one.
Right.
So we can get editing done fast.
I've learned always to go to my last attempt. Like, if I'm doing a pull away on a table or something and I have 3 or 4 attempts on it, I pretty much always know, like, was probably my last attempt that was good.
Yeah.
Because I walked away.
Yeah. True.
But sometimes you do that safety one. So it's either the last one or the second from last.
Yeah.
You know. Well, you also leave too. More importantly, even is like you leave with a certain vibe of the couple, a certain vibe of the night. You know, you had this. Like I always like doing the editing. You know, within a couple of days of being there. You know, especially when I'm picking the music, the royalty free.
At least within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because if then it just starts disappearing from your head, you know, and it becomes a little harder. Not that you can't do it. You can of course do it. It just becomes that much harder to do it. And when you're talking about the vibe of the client, my goodness, this is exactly what I tell my clients when it comes to picking the music. Right? Is I pick the music with your vibe. If all of a sudden you had a super hype wedding, good chance it's going to be a hype, fun song.
Right.
If your wedding was really slow, very romantic, most likely it's going to be a very romantic, slow song.
If everybody's kind of just chill and just all in their feels. And,
And I've never had one single client go back on and say, no, I want you to change the song in a wedding. I've had them do it in a commercial, but not in a wedding.
I've said that before too. Whether it was weddings, but it also even more importantly because like people are nervous about it, like the showcase videos. You know, interviewing people. I've never, you know, everybody's nervous about it, but I've never had somebody come in and say like, can you cut that out? I didn't like how I sounded there or whatever. You know, like they're usually very happy with the way their business was portrayed. You know? But it's of course people are going to be reserved. They see other people, but they also don't understand the magic of movie making. You know, when I cut out some ahs and some uhs and some space, you sound better than you've ever sounded. And
you're making it sound like a complete sentence with B-roll covering the top, and they're like, oh my God, I sounded great answering that question. You're like, actually, I cut a button. You show them like all the cuts in between the
and covered it up with B-roll, and you know, in a way, it's just the video version of what you do with photos. You know, you take somebody's photo, you're taking down the mids so that the skin looks a little smoother, a little less, you know, little better skin. You know, you're fixing them up. Yeah. So it's like now we're shooting video, so obviously I'm editing your voice. I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to make you sound as good as possible.
That's why I like shooting with Canon, with Canon cameras, because of the colors.
Oh, yeah.
Because it helps you out, specifically with weddings, right? We're trying to not so much do a fast turnaround time, but we don't have time to sit there and massively spend 2 weeks color correcting like we would a short film maybe.
Right.
You know, so we're trying to push out a little faster. Canon, I think for me, and I've shot with Sony, I've shot with Lumix, I've shot with Canon. I still love Canon the best. It just makes it for photo and video. Boom, super simple. The colors are already there. Yeah. You hardly have to touch it up, you know. Yeah. Especially if that client wants that, you know, light and eerie type of look out of your wedding. You know, if they want the hard film look, well then, you're going to have to spend more time color correcting that footage.
Like when you do weddings, you're probably not even shooting in C-Log or...
No.
I stopped doing that even with clients too because it's... And so unless I'm doing a short film, like I want to... And that's kind of the playground where you want to do that, but it just adds so much time doing, you know, log footage. And even though you have a nice transition LUT or whatever, and time I can get there pretty quick, but I just get there a lot quicker just shooting out of the camera and then just adding a little grade at the top. You know? Yeah,
and time is extremely valuable, especially in the industry, because again, I try to remind people that you're not just shooting their wedding. You don't just shoot somebody's wedding and you're done. Like the experience continues way after the wedding.
Right.
One of the ways that you can impress your clients is, for example, in my contract, I have it where it takes me 6 months to edit your wedding. Now, the client already understands that and signed off on that. I've never taken 6 months to edit a wedding. Never. Right? So I try to right away give it to them within 3 weeks. It creates that like, I wasn't expecting this. You know, if you can do it within a week or a week and a half, even better. Right? They might be in the middle of their honeymoon and all of a sudden they get their wedding video.
Yeah, but if they're expecting it, then it's like...
Exactly. So again, the client will forgive you for even some mistakes that you made in the wedding video if they get it like that. Right. Where if you wait 6 months to give it to them, you better believe they'll come back at you and be like, I didn't like how I looked here. I didn't like how I looked there. You know, can you change this? Can you change that?
Now, have you moved to just doing the wedding films? Are you doing the... Because when I first started doing weddings, I was doing the DVD thing where it's like a chapter, you know, the ceremony, the this. But the only people that ever watched the ceremonies and the tosses and the events were the mom, the bride, and the bride. Yeah. Everybody else would be so excited, though, when you posted that highlight video on the internet. That's what got shared and watched the most. Yeah. You know, the DVD would just disappear.
Yeah.
So do you still do the ceremony and stuff, or you just shoot for a film?
No, I do because, I mean, it's nice for the client, right? So I don't try to push it on the client because there's a cheaper package that you can get, obviously, for just wedding highlight, right? without everything else. And it's two different styles of filmmaking. Okay, when you decide that you want your entire speech on there, all your speeches, or your first dances, well, I'm not going to move the camera much, right? I'm going to try to keep it as steady as possible, maybe move around you a little, where if I'm just doing a highlight, I don't have to worry about it. I can run up to you sideways, get that shot from the side, get a shot of just your feet really quick, get a shot at close up of just
you're saying something really good I might want to use? Let me stop and
exactly. With the speeches before, when I've had to do highlights, a lot of times I've filmed a quick shot of the groomsman doing the speech and then his shadow. It's just a shadow of somebody holding a microphone, with like a candle in the foreground.
Right.
And it looks beautiful. But if I'm giving you that entire file and you want that entire speech, I either got to set up a second camera or I got to just stay as steady as possible. So it's two different styles of filmmaking at your wedding, depending what package you get. But I try to remind them that this is something that they're just going to want, So it's nice to be able to have your entire ceremony there, your entire, first dance, in case you ever want to look back at it.
I feel like I kind of, when I was doing weddings, I just enjoyed I was following these like high-end filmmakers and they were making wedding films. And I was like I just like the creative aspect of that. So I didn't like the whole deep, like, you said, you have to lock off the shot and then you're worried about one of the cameras going out or something. So I would actually push the opposite. I'd be like, you're not going to use, you're not going to go watch the ceremony really. You make a good film, and I was doing 2-3 songs for every wedding film, trying to make it have a good arc, and I was interjecting
the 50-minute long.
Yeah, I was interjecting the letter reads at the beginning, and then some of the ceremony audio, dipping the music down, so like it would have this whole, it would be a film for their day. And I just creatively I like doing that versus because I felt like when I had it locked off and stuff, it was just kind of like,
Yeah. So one of the last videos I did, it came out to 15 minutes. As a highlight, 15 minutes.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's long, right? But that's what the client wanted specifically. I enjoy the 3 minutes. 3 minutes to 4 minute highlights. I believe those are perfect. And I fell into creating highlights almost by mistake. Because again, when I started, I had a mini DV camera. So the Canon XL1, Canon XL2 camera. And I got hired to go do a half Pakistani, half Indian wedding, if I remember correctly.
Ooh, colorful. Great backdrop.
Yeah. I, of course, didn't know some of the rules because it was my first time doing a wedding. I charged $1,900, acting like I knew what I was doing because I had done documentaries before that. So I showed up at this wedding. I didn't know that there was some rules that guys couldn't be in certain rooms, so it was all an experience for me. But before I showed up at that wedding, I had a major problem. The day before, and I'm sure back in the day when we had to buy mini DV tapes, you had to buy them from somewhere, physically from somewhere. We didn't have just Amazon that would come 2-day delivery. I would always depend on Best Buy. I didn't buy one the week before. The night before, I was like, no big deal. Best Buy's on the way to the wedding. Huge mistake. We got to Best Buy, there was no mini DV tapes. So I had one. I believe there were 2-hour-long tapes that you had in a mini DV camera. And I had to record an entire day of a wedding with just 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I fell in highlight videos because I was just grabbing clips and then just hoping the client wouldn't be mad at me because I didn't really record her wedding, what I thought I was going to record.
Like you didn't record the entire ceremony?
No, just because I knew I was running out of space. Like every minute counting, counted. Yeah. And at the time, it was 2006, so I don't even think YouTube was around at the time. But a country music artist had a music video up where in the music video, the entire music video was clips of their wedding, of him and his bride's actual wedding. And that's where I got the I'm just going to try to salvage this footage by somehow putting it together with music, right? So when we started, back in the day, it was wedding music videos. It wasn't it wasn't called highlight videos. It was wedding music videos.
Right.
And then it started getting a little bit more intricate, where a lot of filmmakers came in and all of a sudden made it way more cinematic, started pulling out drones with it, and making these big epic pieces that that we're all making out there now.
Right.
A little different from when we started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when we started, it looked more like one of those indie music videos.
Yeah.
Where it's just, wow, you're moving the camera around, 1990s music video type of style.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, one of my first videos I did was for my buddy's wedding, and it turned out great. And everybody just loved it. It was a great song put to it. And then, of course, you're looking into things like, all right, next step is like getting more into like the film. Like, I want to interject and try to make an arc. And And but I haven't done a wedding in a long time. I actually stepped away from it. Had a, you know, I kind of like what I'm doing with the business thing, and I just, it's just an easy thing. Of course, every photographer and video person does it. It's just such a great industry. You know, it's never going to go away. You know?
No, again, I would warn people.
It's hard to give up
though.
the weekends. It's hard to, you know, I had some bad experience with some brides. You know, just wanting all the footage.
Really?
And I'm like, what? You know, which is rare.
Yeah,
that was a friend of mine.
Especially if you're shooting a C-log.
Right.
You're like, all right, you sure you want all this footage?
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck watching it.
Even when I wasn't shooting I wasn't shooting S-log or C-log then, but I was still shooting a pretty flat profile because I still wanted to, you know, so it's not, it's not Rec 7. I'm not ready for anybody to just have it, you know.
Yeah.
And nor was I shooting for it to just be clips that you could just watch. You know, you're shooting, you know, random.
Yeah, we're testing out.
enjoy.
All of a sudden, we're
Right.
like how that candle looks, and we're just testing out the
Right.
shots. And then all of a sudden, we're like, nah, that actually looks like crap.
Right.
You know, and then the bride's going to get that shot, and maybe you're afraid that she'll share it online.
Right.
You know, it's all dependent, right? So if you're looking to make a career out of weddings, be careful what messaging you're putting out there or what you're allowing your clients to put out there about your company. If you're trying to do that for the long run, for the rest of your life. And again, keep in mind that doing that for the rest of your life means being a business owner. Not being an artist, being a business owner.
Right.
Okay, you have to run it as a business. You can't just be an artist and say, I'm going to do this wedding thing for the rest of my life. You're going to get to an age where you're going to show up at weddings. Oh, my back hurts because I'm 50-something years old, you know, and you have no team built up. To where if at least you have a team, you know you're sending people out to weddings, representing your company. So two different kinds of industries, two different kinds of styles.
Yeah, any kind of business you create, no matter what it is, you need to add people and then grow with people. So then eventually that means that it's not as dependent on you because you're only going to be young and ambitious for so long. And
if that's the path you want to take
and have the grunt, but if you're going to be a solo person, you almost have to put so much into it that you become like very unique and very in demand, and then you can charge a crazy price.
Yeah,
you know?
And you have to be able to also do different things.
Right.
Not just one thing.
Yeah.
Again, if you go to Hollywood, they tell you don't just be an actor. Be an actor or a writer.
Right.
Be an actor or director. Do something else.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same thing for me. Started with acting, got behind the camera. Now I'm doing photography, videography, editing, right? I get projects where it's just I'm the editor and that's it.
Right.
So I'm doing a lot of weddings all of a sudden, then a commercial, then a feature film. It just goes anywhere and everywhere.
Right.
You know, and my passion is to be in the arts, to create for people, not only just for myself, which that's okay, but to create for other people as well. So I never got into it because of business. I made it into a business for about 2 years of my life. It was great as far as money coming in, right? But you lose that that artistic side of you almost.
Right.
You know, the client almost ends up becoming another number to you. Let's just get the next client. Let's get the next client. Let's get the next client.
Right.
Right. It doesn't matter about the relationship that you built with the client, or you know if you're going to be able to push that photo shoot a little bit and say, you know what, let's try something a little bit more artistic, and not the same thing I just did with the other client. Let's push it a little bit.
Right.
So it's just two different kinds of lifestyles in a way. So if you are doing it as just an artist, you better not just be dependent on weddings. You better really expand yourself and be able to do a lot of different things.
There's a young filmmaker here in the Grass Lake area, Simon. He does really great work. He's been doing like athletic highlight videos because a lot of parents want to do that for scouts. So if they have a student that's on a team, they want to do like a little highlight video, put it on TikTok or Twitter for people for recruiters to see the video. And he does really great work, but he actually was messaging me the other day because he got a wedding and wants to get in, making a little bit more money and getting the weddings and do that and stuff. And how do you get into the higher end stuff? And I kind of shared my advice about, my views on the whole film, wedding filmmaking, making the films versus trying to do the other, because it just adds a lot of layers, especially for a new video person. It might be easier to start with the highlights and the films and it's kind of always the roll of dice too. If you can have an in or two for like a good high cost wedding or two, and then getting that, because everybody who's getting married has 3, 4, 5 more people that are coming down the road about to get married.
Correct.
So typically,
like your sister-in-law.
Right. Exactly. So you typically
I'll be at that wedding as well.
You do a good job. You melt some people's hearts with a good highlight video, and you got 3, 4 jobs from every wedding you do.
Now, I'll give you this, though. Be careful out there, okay? Because as I've told many young students before, weddings is an amazing field to get into, especially if you're looking to do independent film. It'll bring the pressure into your life, especially when you're filming, when you're there the day of, because you can't mess up. There's no other take, right? In indie film, sometimes you're running and rushing and rushing and rushing. You got to be able to just get the shot.
Right.
Okay? So it's great for training for indie films, but it's one of the only industries that we have that could get you sued. One of the only industries. I could screw up an entire commercial for Nissan, and they wouldn't care. I would just have to reshoot it. You screw up a wedding, and you're getting sued.
No matter
your whole
what's in
life
your contract.
It's hard, man. It's hard. And even if your contract gets you out of it, you're still having to deal with it, which is going to bring a lot of stress into your life. You know, the camera battery dies right before the first kiss.
Right.
Can you imagine that you didn't capture the first kiss?
Right.
So a bride could technically take you to court and trash your name.
Right.
So it's like you got to be careful.
Or even, I mean, Marla's had this too, where just like, you know, she's got hundreds of students, but one parents got really upset about something, you know, and it's like, and you know that if they wanted to, they could start doing reviews and really try to just, you know, tank her business, you know, which is, it kind of comes down to any business, like you run your own business, you just got to deal with a lot more stuff than being a 9-to-5 employee. That's what's so hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even taxes, you get taxed. You don't even think about the taxes. You never seen your check without the taxes. You just get a check and you walk away. But when you have a business and you make $1,000 and you realize, oh, I got to put $250 of this away for taxes.
Yeah,
you know,
you're like, I should have charged more
because the government owns like 25% of my business or something. You know, I didn't see them, but you know. So
of course,
even taxes, you feel that, or
it's
or you
tough.
said a disgruntled client. Typically, that'd be your boss's problem or management's problem because you're the tradesperson.
Yeah,
it's your problem because you're the tradesperson, the owner, the everything.
But again, back to the wedding thing though. You know, when you're doing a senior shoot, again, you could screw up a senior shoot, you know, and just redo it the next week or whatever.
Right.
It's just that wedding is so important for the client.
Oh yeah.
That I do not suggest somebody that doesn't have enough experience jumping into weddings.
Right.
Now, the reason why I charged $1,900 for my first wedding, like in 2006. Was because I already had experience. Not just shooting little documentaries, but at that point, I can't remember if I did one commercial. I think I did one commercial before that, you know? So I had some experience.
You're just like, I'm coming in here.
I had some experience, right? And enough where I kind of knew what I was going to do. Now, that being said, I didn't know the business at all. The whole wedding business is a whole different beast on itself. That took years and years and years and years and years to learn.
Right. So much of being a good producer is just that what you learn from the shooting, editing. I used to take a lot of notes when I was editing, like editing me writing notes to the shooter mic, you know?
Yeah.
Hold these shots longer. Why are you always moving? Don't move so much. Have some that you just still, you know, locked off kind of shots, you know? And I would look at those notes before I went and did my next wedding or my next shoot, you know, because I would just... I'm developing as a shooter.
That's a good way of doing it right there.
Right?
That's a good thing, actually.
So, because you've been editing and being like aggravated with yourself, like, oh man, why am I so jumpy right here? Why am I switching shots so quickly? Why don't I hold them for an extra 30 seconds just to make sure I got a good length of time for that shot? So when I got frustrated with myself, I'd write myself the note and look at those notes before I go and shoot.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You do that enough, and now you're saving yourself a lot of time in the editing, because I
should have done that. I actually just learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I kept making the mistake and then being like, after the fourth time, being like, oh shit.
Man, how many
now
times?
Now it clicks.
I'm sure both of us so many times have like just had to edit ourselves out of a funk because we didn't have the right footage.
Yeah.
Or didn't think of some things during the shoot. But you can always edit your way out of the.
Well, it never comes out the way you want to shoot.
Yeah.
Ever. Like it doesn't come out for me the way that I envision the shoot. Never comes out the same. But the same for Steven Spielberg.
Right.
The way he envisioned the shoot never comes out the same.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a simple reality of what we do.
The editing is so important. Like, the editing is really where it all comes together. Because you can take... I mean, I always reference... a very inspiring thing for me was... because we all love gear. Every filmmaker, photographer loves to keep buying gear. Talking to themselves.
Oh, you got me on this one. We're going to start getting heated over here.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I have plenty of gear as well.
Yeah.
But one time I watched Casey Neistat and his brother's show on HBO, and it was just point and shoot, shitty digital cameras.
Yeah.
And their show got bought by
HBO.
HBO, and was on there. And I was actually watched all the episodes, not out of study, because I was actually interested. I'm like, these are great stories. This is great. And that's what got me like, it doesn't really matter the gear. It's the story that really, you know, brings it home. The, you know, manufacturers of this gear, they sponsor the artists that we like to follow and that we're inspired by. And, you know, and the artists are helping to sling and sell the gear and sell, you know, and there's always, I can do that trick if I have that added feature on my next camera, you know, like there's always that sell, you know, but at the end of the day, you could go out with a cell phone or, you know, and do some great stuff.
Am I on that camera right there? I'm going to talk to, can I talk to your audience? Here we go, really quick. Here's how to survive as an artist. I'm not going to tell you how to succeed as an artist, but how to survive at least as an artist. Stop upgrading your equipment every 2 years. It's ridiculous. It's just gotten crazy for people. I have some photographer friends of mine that are just, I don't understand. It feels like I'm broke again this year. Oh, really? Well, how much was that camera that you bought? Oh, like, oh my God, I only ended up spending like $14,000.
Right.
Every 2 years, $14,000. I know you can write it off, this or that, but come on.
Right.
Like it gets to a point where you're just doing too much. If you're getting hired for some jobs, you know we're renting cameras anyways.
Right.
We're not using the cameras that we have on us. So the cameras that we have on us have to do the job that we need them to do, and that's it. Nothing more special. Right. So I'm still shooting weddings with a DSLR camera. I have not switched to mirrorless yet. And right now I really don't want to yet switch to mirrorless.
Right.
I'm okay with the camera and the gear that I have. And I have quite a bit of it. But again, some of it didn't come because I went and bought it.
Right.
Some of it came because the client said, well, you know what? We want that extra shot. I can't really create the shot unless I have this specialty piece of equipment.
Right.
Okay, we'll buy it for you. So a lot of the equipment I got was bought for my clients, by my clients, for me, to get a shot in a certain commercial. Same thing with my drone. I never bought my drone. My drone was a client that bought it for me.
Oh, nice.
Because they wanted drone footage. Because originally somebody quoted them, I think, $2,500 for 15 minutes of drone footage, for him flying for 15 minutes. And I looked at him and I was like, what the? I was like, look, you go and buy the drone for me, I will fly in and get all that footage for you.
For free.
You know, for oh my God. I went on YouTube. I started studying all the YouTube videos because I never flown a drone.
Right.
So I just went on YouTube, started studying all the videos, recorded all the pieces of the videos on my phone, if I remember, that described all the cinematic settings you had to put on the drone for it to, like, when you let go of the joystick, for it to slow down by itself. And
I do that for usually every piece of gear right when I get it.
Yeah.
And then I forget that I even set it up. I did that with my Mavic drone when I got it. I went in there, followed somebody's tutorial on how to set up the different settings, and the settings are still in there.
Yeah, I took that drone up in the air that first time, and
Yeah.
I flew it perfectly. People were like, "Oh my God, you're a great drone pilot." I'm sitting there like, "Nah, those were all settings."
Yeah, I mean, also the trick with drones, a lot of people don't do this, but a lot of trick with drones is just have at least 2 movements, and it looks cinematic.
Yeah.
You know, well, I think what helped me a lot with like drone flying was all the time, because I used to be all about sliders. I love sliders. Like if you want a nice, even at weddings, I would use them, because if you just want a nice shot that you can hold for a long time,
Yeah.
a slider shot is just great. I mean, it's just so much more interesting if you're going across a table with a slider. So it's like, you know, understanding how foreground works.
Yeah, the mini
make us a good
sliders for
slider
weddings
shot.
are nice. You know the mini ones that are small, like especially for that detail, all the detail stuff, or just the shoes or things like that. That's the only time I can remember using a slider at a wedding.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Mine
it's
was-
mostly monopod, you
Yeah.
know, or stabilizer.
I love a
Gimbal.
monopod. Monopods are still a good go-to. But I actually, for the longest time, I had a rule. I only took 2 bags to every shoot. So I had my backpack. Even when I came and did your shot, I had 2 bags. You know,
Yeah.
I had my backpack, and then I used to have this little lacrosse bag, and in there I had 2 cheap light stands, and I had a slider that was just a little too long for the lacrosse bag, but my buddy like cut it down for me, and then added a tap so I could have the legs on there, so it fit perfectly in there.
Nice.
I had my slider, my tripod, 2 light stands, and then I had my backpack. You know,
That's a good
with my lights.
system right there.
And I would only shoot 1 lens. I had a crop sensor camera and a 30 millimeter Sigma 1.4.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I told myself, because this is when I was doing like a showcase video every week when I came out and shot your video. And I was just like, I have to like dumb things down and make it simple. I can't be thinking about what lens I want. I also can't be trying to color grade between lenses, trying to, you know, different things. Like this way it looks more sharp. So I just kept it down. 1 lens, 1 camera.
Yeah, if you're a videographer, you're better off getting 2 cheaper cameras that are a match to each other,
Right.
than just getting 1 high-end camera.
Yeah.
Like that is so much more valuable to you as a filmmaker.
Yeah. For interviews and stuff too.
Yeah.
For sure.
It just makes your post-production that much easier.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, you know, a lot of equipment can get in the way sometimes. Right?
If you're overthinking about if you have too much equipment, you have decision fatigue in the middle of the point where you have to make a decision on set.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about gimbals. I mean, everybody's got pretty much the same opinion. Gimbals are great, but we all overused them. Like, we all just took advantage of gimbals, right? Because now we're at weddings and we're just getting everything with the gimbal, all the shots.
Well, that's why I realized when I went from a monopod to a gimbal, I was just like, and the monopod kept me kind of locked. I would do pushes, I would do pulls.
You would find the foreground to it.
I would do things like I was kind of limited in my movements, but when I got the gimbal, like you said, you start like just whipping around everywhere.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, what was I even doing there?
Yeah, you're not paying attention to the shot.
Yeah.
You know, you're not, again, when you're in a monopod, you have to find something interesting in the foreground, maybe.
Right.
To display the story that's happening in the background.
Right.
So it just, less equipment sometimes is better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And now with these, like, you know, I got FX3 now, and the interior, like the stabilization in the camera is so good. Like, now I want to go out and shoot, especially if I'm shooting a lot of just B-roll and I'm shooting at 60 frames a second or higher. I'm just holding the camera, you know.
That's beneficial, yeah. That I like.
It's very,
I mean, yeah,
it's very steady, and it only crops in.
Especially if you got the less equipment you got to carry around,
right,
the better. You know, we're not on a set where you have people helping you out, where you got a gaffer moving stuff for you as well. You know,
and when I do events and stuff, I kind of want to blend in. I would like to bring my monopod for a lot of reasons, but I'm just kind of, I kind of want to. I want to be small. Yeah, I want to be able to shoot from across the room and on like a conversation or like on some people without it being obvious that I'm.
Yeah. Plus the equipment, again, the equipment that I have is perfect for what I do. When we're doing certain projects and the client has certain prerequisites, of course we're going to rent cameras. Or we're going to hit up a friend that has that camera that we need, right? And rent it from him or her. But the stuff that we have now, the cameras that I use now are perfect for what I do, not only in weddings, but then again, when you have a certain situation where you might have a client, let's say a small business owner that just started, and you know that they're struggling. At least my dad used to be a business owner, so I know what it's like to be a small business owner. And sometimes you want to help them out, right? If you had to rent a camera, then that takes the budget way up. But with the cameras that you have, you can provide that only, you know, let's say $2,000 video for that. You know, you should probably be charging a lot more, but you're saying, you know what? I'm using my own equipment. It's only me on set. I don't have to hire nobody else, so I can actually keep the price down and help you.
I like you. You're local.
Exactly. You know, I'm helping my community. That's always been my thing, is making sure that I help the community that I live in. That's really important to me, you know. So if I can give anybody a discount that is in my community, automatic. The same thing if you're an artist. Right? If you're an artist, and again, you're saying, well, I got my wedding coming up, and I can't afford a $3,000 videographer. I understand. Like, I understand. I've been blessed in my life at this moment, you know, where I can give you a $1,500 discount, you know, and it doesn't affect me. Right. So it's like I like doing that for either small business owners or artists specifically artists. Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's helping out each other as much as possible. You know.
So you did a film. I think me and Marla watched it a while ago, but Get Real.
Yeah.
How was it being on set and doing that? And I mean, it's an interesting crew and comedy. And was it a fun time? Like,
that was a lot of fun.
Hanging around with everybody.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I can't tell you exactly how long it took. 30 days, a little bit more, over 30 days.
You use your cameras for that too,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
Canon
with the internet
90Ds
too, you're only able to do 1080p anyways.
Yeah,
really.
And again, Canon 90Ds displayed at the Michigan Theater on a humongous screen, and it looked beautiful.
Right.
So the cameras weren't a problem, right? And that's the budget that we had to play with. And we really got what we needed to get. The whole experience was nice. I know Christina, the director from before. Her and I wanted to work with each other for a long time, and we finally got to work with each other. But I got to meet all the other people on set. Chris, the main actor, who was hysterical.
Yeah, he seemed pretty comfortable on screen.
I've never met, dude. That guy was so much fun just to hang around with, just to talk to. His way, his persona, right? So it wasn't just like, oh, this guy's an actor and he's great in front of the camera. No, even outside of the camera.
Yeah, I mean, I can pick that up just from seeing him on the camera.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff carries off. I mean, if somebody's got a certain presence, every great actor does off camera too.
Yeah,
you know, it's just, I mean, I've read a lot of books about directing, and so much of directing is telling people not to act. You know, like I want you to just say the lines. You know, you don't. You know, most people don't have to dig deep,
Yeah.
but they want to look at the greats and see how they had these like little inflections and these little things, and they want to be that. It's like, you might get there, but right now, just read the lines,
Well, I'm sure you learn from working on small budget commercials that sometimes you're just casting like your stepmom. Thanks, stepmom, for helping me out in some of the commercials. They're not actresses; they're not actors,
Right.
And they still have to be able to either deliver a line or deliver a certain look or a way.
Right.
So I think that's also a great way of training yourself as a director is to work with people that are not actors,
Right.
and to get them to deliver that on camera, on screen.
And that's hard to do if you're holding the camera and trying to capture everything.
Yeah.
While also paying attention to the, because a lot of times you're just like, I think we got it. That's good. And then you go into editing and you're like, I should have had them do it like once or twice more,
For the City of Milan commercials that I did for TV and the Great Lakes PTBN TV commercials, for both of those, I hired a cinematographer, Elisha Lewis, who's an amazing, amazing guy. He does a lot of stuff like around the world. I hired him as my cinematographer. So yeah, for those shoots, I was very specifically able to just focus on the acting, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You can hold a camera once in a while on set, but if you're really looking at the monitor, first you're looking at the composition, right? You're not looking at your actors necessarily when you're looking at the monitor. You're looking at the composition of the shot.
Right.
But then you can put the monitor down and just really look at your actors,
Right.
and see what they're doing, especially during rehearsal. Right, I don't suggest maybe just looking not at the monitor while you're not at rehearsal, but during rehearsal you can go ahead and just look straight at them, and see what they're doing, and then make some changes there.
Yeah, but you get your shots lined up, and
it gives you this ability that again, when you are just holding a camera, it's a little bit tougher, to capture.
I've noticed recently, like I know we're probably gonna dork out a lot in this episode about filmmaking and video, but you try to watch these great films and you're like, oh, I like the cinematography. So then you kind of step back from watching and being a observer of the story, and you start looking at the shots and stuff, and you start to realize that there's this like, I used to get caught up in it where I would think, oh, I have to do like a matching shot between the two subjects, for a dialogue scene. But a lot of cinematographers, that's not what they do. It's what looks best for the composition, because the background's a little different over here than it is over here, and it's all about just making sure that shot is gold. Like, of course, there's those rules. A low shot's going to make this person have more authority. A high shot, there's still that kind of stuff for cinematic storytelling. But I've kind of learned a lot, just little things that I used to do. I would just have in my head, okay, make sure this person's doing this. I'll have a low shot because they're kind of like the person in power here and this. But I wouldn't think about really moving the camera around to make sure you get a beautiful composition. With the background or lamps. You know how crazy lamps are.
A lamp in the background.
Like if you're like watch movies and look at the crazy places they put lamps. There's a lamp on the counter in the kitchen. You're like, who puts a lamp on the counter in the kitchen? But that's all about composition. That's like adding interesting, because photos are a look at medium. Like, I love that quote. I can't remember what book it was, and video is a look into medium. People are looking into it. It's supposed to have depth, That's what makes it interesting. So they'll just throw lamps up everywhere.
Now, again, as a cinematographer, sometimes you don't have that option, right? So it depends.
Those are high budget scenes.
Exactly.
For sure.
It depends on the scope of your project.
There's a whole trailer full of lamps.
Yeah.
And a team
I tell somebody,
in.
if one of the mistakes that I watched people make before was not getting enough coverage. Coverage is king when it comes to cinematography, especially in indie film, right? You want to make sure that your editor has all that coverage, from the wide to the mediums to the close-up, different angles,
so that he can really adjust.
So that he can really adjust it and make it look good. Because sometimes you go in there and you're just spending hours just getting this one.
The pacing
angle.
Is something that's also like a natural thing. Like some editors, they could probably edit it and make it look good, but like the good editors can make anything just have like an amazing pacing that looks. That is the thing that takes something that looks like an indie film to something that looks like a professional film. And the color grading.
Except if you're the editor in that new show, what was it, the Studio? Where the whole pacing is just purely on camera. I don't know if you watched The Studio or not yet.
Oh, I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The pacing, that first episode is just.
I didn't like the second episode. I was like, oh, they're making him look like a dunce.
Yeah.
Like
I haven't seen the second episode.
He just shows up and ruins the whole shoot and just falling everywhere, and like, he's like, I'm like, oh man, that's the direction they're going with his character.
Gotcha. Okay. Mike just spoiled it for me.
but no, it's beautiful. Like, like the colors of that temple that they're even like working in. Like the color choices, color palette.
But it's the constant pacing that happens with the camera as well.
Yeah, they're following.
Exactly. And we don't have different angles over the shoulders or anything like that.
Right.
So again, it's taking almost more of a style of this is an indie film or we had a limited amount of budget, right? Now, I know that they took that choice creatively and that's what they wanted to do. But it almost comes off as we only have a certain amount of budget. We can only afford one camera guy and he's going to follow everywhere.
Do you do what I do when you watch shows like that and you think about how meta it would be to be on a set where you're filming filmmakers? Like, no, that's the fake set of filmmaking. No, that's the, you know what I'm saying? Like you got two different video jungles set up.
Yeah.
It is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think about how complex that would be. Like the second episode where he's on this crazy, like trying to get this really cool one take shot that they're trying to do. And they were doing one take shots. And it's like, what's the lighting that's here for us? What's the lighting that's here for the fake shoot?
Yeah.
Like, it just.
Yeah, completely different style of lighting as well.
I'm sitting there like, this is. Like, you know,
well,
what I'm saying?
it's got to be funny for
put my mind in knots just watching it.
Yeah, it's got to be funny for the actors or for just everyone on set
Right.
being able to at least make fun of themselves a little.
No, you're the fake PA. He's the real one.
Now imagine they're making fun of an executive while at the same time they probably have an executive on set.
Right.
Right. And they're making all these jokes about it and they're probably looking over like, we're not laughing at you.
No, it's not. Your suit's fine.
No, you're great.
Yeah.
You're the best. You're nothing like this guy on the show. So yeah, it's got to be a fun show to film, period.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, the lighting that you just brought up, yeah, when you're doing those entire camera movements and it's nonstop filming and it's a one-shotter, the lighting has to be prepared in each room prior to you walking in. So again, two different styles of lighting for cinematographers. It's not just one way and that's it. There's so many different ways of doing it, right? And this is something that you learn every day. Again, every single day as a cinematographer, you learn something. As a director, you learn something. As a photographer, you learn something.
I mean, the dynamic range on like the new cameras and stuff, it's, you know, I go out now with, you know, I used to just go out with one little LED light and I would find like a good source light, match my bicolor, you know, those two colors. I could change the temperature of my LED light, you know, to be a little fill or whatever, you know, or top down light. But I love bringing my big light dome too. But so many times I've shot stuff just, well, what's here? Okay. You know, especially for B-roll. Yeah. You know, I rarely bring out a light for B-roll. And it's amazing what you can bring out in the color grading, you know.
Nowadays,
just isolating.
Yeah, well, especially, what is your FX3? Is it 10-bit? Yeah, it's a 10-bit camera, right?
Yeah. And I definitely noticed I went from the 80D to that.
Okay. So I know the Red Kamado is
no
16-bit, I think, right now. And that one's really good for the dynamic range and color.
Yeah.
You know.
You can push those colors.
Yeah, but at 10-bit, you're still doing great.
Oh, 10 bits.
Yeah. You have so much information there already built in that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could do a lot of, again, technology does matter. It all depends what you want to do.
Yeah, but 10-bit, you know, 4K, 120 frames a second, you're good for 4 or 5, 10, you know, or longer, depending on how the internet moves. Like, you don't need much more.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people are out there upgrading. They're not even at the point where they even can harness the power of what they bought. They're just doing it because they feel like they have to do it, you know.
I've seen some people like that. Again, you see a lot of people like that on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube.
The people selling the gear are at that point.
Yeah.
A lot of people that they're talking to wouldn't know the difference between 10 and 8 because they're not even color grading like that yet.
But don't fall for just buying the most expensive equipment. Just because you buy the most expensive equipment doesn't know you're going to know how to use it. You know, sometimes you can get a great camera, and if you don't know how to use it, it actually comes out looking worse.
Right.
So it's just you know, it's tough to see people fall for that.
Yeah. And there's some guys who are just like almost more into the dorking out over the specs than they are about the filmmaking.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for them to do it.
Yeah.
But also maybe their role isn't so much a director.
No, they could just have an interest.
Yeah.
You know, it's really when you're doing that whole online, making a lot of online videos, my only warning to people is just be careful. Right? I got to be careful. You got to be careful. Everybody's got to be careful. Specifically because you're not really impressing anyone above you. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. It's you can make this cool video and talk about how to shoot this better. You should probably say on your video that you're directing this video to beginner videographers or beginner photographers, you know, because all of a sudden somebody that's above you that might be able to give you that job, they're not going to be very impressed by that video. It's not going to take them out and be like, oh, wow, look at him talking about this or that. So I watch a lot of people spend their whole entire lives just creating YouTube videos or TikTok videos, talking about equipment, but not doing anything with it.
Right.
And it's just sad. You know, it's beyond sad. I wish I could educate people more. I'm not the educator type. You know, I don't have the patience. Last time I talked to a group of school students, the teacher was not very happy with me because I happened to say something like, look, if you want to get into filmmaking, you got to be a little suicidal.
You said to the kids.
To a bunch of kids, I said that, yes. So not the correct thing to say.
You can't even say that word.
You can't say that in
elementary
school. Yeah, exactly. It was a high school. Thank God for me. It was a high school, but
Probably worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, So you do have to be a little,
Right.
a little crazy because again, it's that difference between do you want to be an artist or do you want to be a business owner?
Well, yeah. I mean, what I would say to like a group of high school kids is like, okay, if you're really into, you want to be a photographer, you want to be a content creator or a videographer, I would say it's a competitive field. Or even if you want to be a musician, me and Marlo talk about this all the time. You want to do something sexy, something that everybody wants to do because a sexy job isn't going out and cutting somebody's grass or doing a service or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You're looking at the world right now and you're saying, I want to do the sexy stuff. It's going to be competitive.
Yeah, there's nothing sexy about it, but yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it looks, it's appealing. Like, oh, I can be a musician.
It looks
I can
appealing,
impress people with my art, and people can be in awe about the things I create, and everything I create goes somewhere and gets seen by people.
Yeah,
but it's going to be hard, and it's going to be competitive.
It's always going to be hard.
And,
it's a tough life because again, the famous actor in Hollywood is not guaranteed their next job.
Right.
So it's not just us. It's the famous Hollywood person that's struggling for the next. So when I hear people say something like, "Oh, well, that person made it," made it for what?
Right.
A year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. You never know. You better be, if you're one of those actors and you get a nice paycheck, you better start investing your money as soon as you get it. Don't start spending and living that Hollywood lifestyle. Yeah. I've been to Hollywood. I don't like the people. That's should be careful there. Not that I don't like the people in Hollywood. I don't like the way that they carry themselves. Mm-hmm. You got people over there buying themselves extremely expensive cars just because of the way they look in public, but living in a horrible situation, right? Where it's a rat infested apartment. But they would rather have that beautiful car so that they can show off to people and keep that persona. So as long as you don't fall for that, I got oh my God, I got a $300,000 check for filming for 3 months and just let me go out and spend it and go out to the clubs and do all that. No, you better invest that because all of a sudden, I don't care how you're on People magazine or on Vogue magazine, it might disappear the next day just like that.
Well, I look at that the same, athletes, same thing. I hear what they get paid and I'm like, okay, well, if you put that first signing thing that you did or half that money away into investments, you and every generation after you and your family can now pull from that, $20,000 a month for eternity, forever.
Yeah.
And you could put every generation of your family forever in a better place than you grew up.
Yeah.
And that's just math and financial advising. But a lot of these like athletes and artists that make it, they don't have people there. A lot of times it happens when they're young. They don't have people there telling them like, this is how money works. And if I was you, I'd do this and this. You could still go and buy these fancy things, but you're going to put 30% away.
Well, yeah, so their parents didn't teach them that. Schools didn't teach them that.
It's so sad when you see an athlete that went out with all their money, got hurt, and now they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And it sucks that nobody comes in and
I've seen
along.
professional boxers on the street.
Yeah.
People that were professional boxers in the 80s in the streets.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't, and at one point, I know it was the 80s, you weren't making as much money as now maybe, but my God.
Yeah.
Like there had to have been some that you could have invested and put aside. But again, how can you blame them?
Yeah.
Their parents don't teach them. Schools doesn't teach them how to invest money, what to do with your money, not even how to sign a paycheck nowadays. Probably they still don't teach you in school.
And I actually think it's by design.
Yeah. So somebody all of a sudden gets $20 million contract. Of course they're going to go out and be stupid with it.
Right.
I've been stupid with money. Right. I've had those 2 years, 3 years of running my company as a business and having a lot of money come in. Mm-hmm. Where's it at now? Right. Like if you're not investing it, it just disappears.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you have that mentality that you don't fall for the Hollywood lifestyle or the famous celebrity lifestyle. And again, if you're doing it for the right reasons, what are the reasons that you're in this industry for? Is it just for the fame or for the celebrity? At that point, are you just a performer and not an artist?
Right.
So I have a very big thing about this, between artists and people that are more like performers and not so much artists.
Right.
So what are you in it for? Mm-hmm. If you're in it for the right reasons, none of that lifestyle should impress you.
Right.
Like none of it. You should be doing it for the next job.
It's all the fluff and the BS on top.
Yeah. Yeah. And now again, you have to do marketing. If you're an actor in Hollywood, the sad thing, you have to go to that party. Right, so there comes a point where you really the choices become very narrow.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with a lot of stuff. I mean, sure, you got a lot of jobs from networking. Yeah,
networking.
Sometimes you got to go to things you don't want to go to. I mean, there's a lot of times when I even have a shoot, and I'm kind of like, I'd rather kind of like be lazy today.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the shoot, I'm like, I'm glad I did that. It was fun.
Yeah.
You know? But we always push into, the easy thing is doing nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. But it's a tough lifestyle. Again, I wouldn't tell my own children.
Yeah.
To do this. So, and that's the reality.
I mean, and it's not even just the art thing. It's also owning your own business is the same thing. It's harder, you know, but if you want that flexibility, you're gonna have to go through those grind years. You're gonna have to go through some hard lessons. You're gonna have to do some things, but hopefully on the other side of that, you end up with a certain level of freedom that you wouldn't have got from a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know? And I find myself in a position of, I've got a good stable job that gives me a good foundation. I've made money with video and pretty much just did what you said. I spent all my money on gear. So I never even hardly took anything out of my business except for maybe some dinners and, but I love TVs and computers. And so all that's a write-off. So I kind of just like spent everything I've made on my toys, which is what you should do too. It's like, you can have a business and not really have the goal of working for yourself full time.
Yeah.
Just make a business around what you're into. You like tooling in the garage, working on cars? Make a mechanic business. Now all your tools are right off. Work on some cars here and there. Make some money so you can buy some cooler tools that you like or fix up your garage.
I would never encourage somebody to quit their job.
Everybody should have an LLC, but if you want to push it to actually become a full-time job, you're gonna grind.
You're gonna suffer. Yeah. You're gonna eat some ramen noodles.
Yeah,
it's sponsored by ramen noodles. No, you're going to have to struggle a bit. Yeah. And it's fine. At this point of my career, again, I'm at a point where I took down my website even, right? Because I don't necessarily need people contacting me. So I have so much word of mouth and things that I've done through the years that people come back, so that helps. And it's a space where I want to be at right now, where I don't just want to take on every single gig that I can get, where I can relax a little bit more, focus on my daughter, raising my daughter, staying at home as much as I can, working on the weekends or working during the week, but editing. Right. Hopefully not going out and shooting. I leave the weekends for shooting.
You do mostly weddings, is it the main thing?
Yeah, between commercials and weddings. Yeah. Right now. And again, what I'm doing right now, I'm even making a pitch to another direction right now. Is I'm pulling away from getting my own clients and preferring to go out to shoot for other production companies. Mm-hmm. I very, very much enjoy that. Yeah. I don't know why. I never thought I would. The same thing with being a second photographer. Mm-hmm. I did that a couple times last year, and I was like, this is the greatest thing of my life. Right. It's being like you just getting shot, and while the main photographer is really focusing on that, you're able to get a little bit more creative. Yeah. So let me go hide behind this bush and shoot this through this bush or something like that. And then you're just like, here's the memory card. Goodbye. Right. Yeah, you're not doing the contract. Yes, you're not doing the contract, collection of money, nothing. Yeah. No timeline worrying about, no nothing of that.
Yeah. That's kind of what we set up with Anna Music Academy for Marla. Was like, she always struggled with, now I have to go and call these parents because they owe me money, and she struggled. So when we got a space, we got the software that automatically sends reminders, blah, blah, blah. Now she's got 12 instructors there that appreciate, like you said, the fact that they're not worried about setting up cancellations or something. There's an admin that handles things. There's a software that handles reminders. There's this that handles payment processing, and they just have to show up. And because a lot of, especially artists and musicians, they're just not organized in that aspect of computers, organization,
exactly. I know I can do it, right? Because I've done it before in the past. But with my ADHD, I know it's a struggle. Right. So if I can take that struggle out of my life and still make some sort of income from that, then it's a great benefit. I can focus on other things that I need to focus on creating more short films or on helping another artist because this time they want a music video or something like that. Right. It allows me a little bit more freedom, So I'm extremely grateful to the companies that send me out now to all these weddings or other things. It's just, to me, I could not be more grateful to that. It's great.
It takes some weight off and allows you to focus in on just what you like. Just playing around with your camera. And looking for those shots. Yeah.
Now again, I have personality, so it's not like I got to meet somebody new that I don't know, and it's like, I'm scared of talking to this new client that I never met or talked to, and it's her wedding day. Right. It's like, no, I walk in there and I'm like, hey, what's going on, girls? How are you? Mm-hmm. I have my little bit of how should I put this? Being politically correct on your channel, because I don't want to get you in trouble. I got my my little gay voice.
Yeah.
Right, you call it? That I walk in when I walk into the bridesmaid room.
Women love gay men.
First I knock,
Love
right? Hey girls, what's going on? Instead of hey, what's going on, guys? I'm like, hey, what's up, girl? Oh yeah, oh my god, I love that. What a beautiful dress.
You
like,
won over all the bridesmaids. Everybody's won.
And then my hands start doing this all of a sudden out of nowhere. You know. Oh, that's so cute. You know? So it's really, you know, I did learn that it does make people feel more comfortable, you know, especially when you have so much high energy. If you have that manly voice and you're like, everybody get over here right now, you know, it doesn't work out so great. So when you drop it, it's a little bit of acting. Yeah. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. We have to still do acting in our everyday job.
You're being a chameleon. You're just blending in with, you know it's a room full of women.
Yeah. Now, again, when I walk into the guys' room, I'm not going, hey, guys. I'm sure they'll be like, what's up? What's going on? You know, so
you're probably not even greeting them in any kind of like noticeable way. You're just kind of
exactly. It's making the person feel comfortable,
right?
Realistically,
know where you are.
You know, because you're in a room. I've been in that situation where you're in the room with the bride and the bridesmaids, and they just start getting dressed, and you're the guy, and you're just like, oh my god, where the hell do I go?
They're like, he's gay. It's fine.
And they're like, no. Nobody's ever said that. Nobody's ever thought of that. I don't think, you know, because a long time I used to work with my ex-partner, you know, so I don't think that was a problem because I was with a girl at the time. And the same thing with now, you know, with my fiance. So I don't think anybody's really thought that, you know, the guy's actually, but they just feel more comfortable, right? I'm not trying to push it and act like I'm actually, you know, gay. It's just that, you know, I'm trying to make them feel a little bit more comfortable with the guy being in the room,
right?
You know, because it's very uncomfortable for us, to be honest with you. Right. I've been there in boudoir shoots where it's like, I don't want to be there. I know I can take your pictures, but like, I don't, you know, and I can be professional, but this is really not what I want to do in my life. You
now
know?
That you have a fiance, that's probably not happening no more. I don't think Mara will ever let me do a boudoir shoot.
No. She'd be, no. In fact, the last boudoir shoot that I got contacted for, she was the one that went and did it just because I wanted her to.
Oh, okay.
Just because, again, it's, for some reason, people think that guys want to be in the room, and it's like, nah, we don't.
That niche kind of blew up, like, you know, over the last like 8 years or so, like especially for brides wanting to do, you know,
their little black book,
the best shape of my life. I'm about to get married, and they like to deliver that the day of the wedding to the man, like this little book of, you know, just gay photos of, and it's a great moment to capture too, because you probably are in the best shape you're ever going to be in. You're getting ready to get married. After that, you're probably gonna have kids and different things, you know. So it's like for the man and for the woman, I think it's a great thing. You know? I'm
not a fan of doing those, you know, to be honest with you. When it comes to boudoir sessions or specifically newborn baby sessions, I got an email yesterday asking me about newborn sessions. I have no problem telling my potential client, no, go with this other person, because she focuses on doing nothing but newborn session. Right. Or she focuses on doing nothing but boudoir
you get to
sessions.
a point where you're niching down, and that's what every artist should do, is like, you know what you're good at, and anytime you do something that you know you can do, but it'll take some studying, I'll have to you should probably pass it on, because you only have so much, unless you're desperate for the money.
Exactly.
You know, then, because there's been times where I took on stuff that I probably shouldn't have done, just because I was like, you know, usually it's because I wanted to learn that, or I was interested in it. So obviously there's gonna be some studying involved, some note taking. I haven't done this before, but you know, eventually you niche down and you say like, you know, this person actually does a really good job. So
you got no problem sending people
price. I've met them before. They're great.
Yeah.
So go there.
That's when you get to that point in your career. That's a nice
when you can say
point.
no.
Yeah, when you can say no, and not just that, but send them somewhere, because you know that somebody else is actually better than you at that specific thing.
Right.
And you have no like competition in you. You don't have this like jealousy thing in you. You know, you're like, oh, I'm going to do the shoot anyways because I want to take her client or his client. Right. It's like, no. This person's better at this than me. Go to them. You know, so I told this bride, I said, look, you're looking for this mom. Look, you're looking for newborn pictures. If you go to the specialist, they might charge you like $700, $800, because that's all they do. They have all the props already. They have the setup already. They know exactly what they're doing. If for some reason,
and they're completely booked up doing only that.
Yeah, and if for some reason you can't, if you can't afford that, and you're a friend of mine because we've known each other for 20 years of our lives. If you can't afford that and you don't want to spend $900 or $700, then hit me back up, you know, and then we'll work something out and be able to do it. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of newborn photography. It could all of a sudden it could be like a 2-hour shoot or a 6-hour shoot because the baby's just crying and needs to be on the boob the whole time. You know? So it can go wrong very, very fast. Yeah. You know, boudoir shoots a lot easier. You know, it's almost like how high-end fashion do you want to get? And that's the problem, right? You got some girls that can really work it in the room, and you say, my God, normal suit, but she could also be a model in a magazine. She already knows how to pose, how to move. You don't really have to tell her much of what to do.
Right.
But I also been in those situations in boudoir sessions where the client feels uncomfortable with themselves. And there's not much that you can do about that.
Right.
Now, you can show them in the end results. You can say, no, see how beautiful you look through this, through the angle that I shot you and the angles that I chose and the way that I chose to shoot you instead. You can show that, but still during the session, she's not going to feel super comfortable.
Yeah, I can see how that can make a turn.
Yeah, if you look, I'll be honest with you, right? It's we're in this world, in this game of photography, where if your client doesn't love themselves, they're not going to love your images. That plain and simple. There's nothing you can do. You can take the best images of their wedding or whatever. If they don't love the way they look, they're not going to love the pictures.
Right.
You know, it's hard. It's, yeah, it's tough. You got to deal with a lot of emotional stuff. It's not just clicking a button.
Yeah.
You know, you have to learn how to talk to the client. You got to learn how to make the client feel good, how to give him a good experience during the shoot, then after the shoot. You know, it really is a business.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, it is a business.
Yeah, I mean, luckily with the equipment, even if you have a little bit out of date equipment, you have the better focal lengths. It's not like a phone where they're like, "Oh, I know my angle. You're at the wrong angle." It's completely different. So ideally, between that and the grading and the smoothing and the skin and different things you can do, like it's the best images they've seen of themselves.
Yeah,
and they're going to be happier then. They're going to be like, "Okay, that is a professional photo."
Yeah. Again, I've never had a client complain. The only client that's ever complained, still to this day, what is it now? 15 years after my first wedding, I think. 2006. Oh, no. 2006 was my first wedding. We're in 2025 now. Good Lord. The only complaint that I've ever had from a bride was the email that I got that I will title as the P picture email.
And it was one shot that you didn't get?
The one
it was
shot.
A wedding? I thought it was a commercial.
No. It was a wedding. And this bride, the groom, we were at a golf course, and the groom decided to go out into the woods and pee because he had to relieve himself. So, understandable. The bride thought it'd be funny if she went and stood right next to him and did the same thing. And then she yells over us, "Guys, come over here, take this picture." So, of course, this is my client. I'm going and taking the picture if you really want me to take the picture. Right. But I didn't put it in the final. Back in the day, we used to give people DVDs, like not even thumb drives or, online. It was DVDs of their pictures. And we just didn't want that picture there representing our company.
Right.
Of them just being like, it was a bad picture.
Right.
The complaint that I got, where is my P picture? I didn't know if to die laughing when I first got that email. It's like you open that and you're like, do I take this serious or do I not take this serious? Of course, we gave it.
Well, she was probably like drunk at the time or buzzing.
Who knows?
Like, this is the best thing ever.
Who knows? We gave it to her.
Of all the beautiful images with their parents and all their family and all this stuff. She's like, where's that picture? That picture that encompasses our relationship because we're fun.
And you could tell she was yelling in the email. She's like, where's my P picture?
Did you send it? Did you send that to her?
Oh, no, I did send it to her.
Yeah.
And this was back in the day where nowadays, probably if you got an email like that, it would most likely end up on TikTok. It's a viral video of
I
your
thought you were
client
talking about the one where you were missing one of the files.
No. That was just an argument between the clients and I. That wasn't even like anything big. That was just like, where is it? I know you got it. It was just painful to deal with, But no, that's the only complaint that I ever legit got from a client was the P picture thing. I don't know. She's got her P picture now though, so
that's funny.
So
another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I've noticed a lot of just things going on with like TikTok and like is I see it. You do a lot of, you're pretty active on TikTok. So you do like videos and things. Have you noticed, like I'm starting to see like a lot of, especially like people like you that are already kind of creative video people that can just make, put clips together and things, that they seem to be like almost competing all these platforms for this short form content. Like they almost want you to stay there. I've even noticed with putting clips from this thing on there, like, I'm getting 800,000, a couple thousand views here, a couple thousand. It's almost like I'm getting rewarded for that short form content like crazy. It's almost like they're competing for to keep the good, to keep people on their platforms.
I mean, why wouldn't you? If that was your company, you would do the same thing.
Right.
Now the way that they're competing with each other, they could obviously make that better. Especially with the Creative Fund program, they could actually make that better. TikTok's very much lacking that. Instagram is beyond lacking on that. But yeah, it's a competition. Of course, they would want one of the things that we tell our clients is if we are creating all these videos for your company, even if we have a monthly contract and we create all these videos for you to advertise in, if the company that you're hiring to post up those videos online, or your marketing girl that works at your company is posting those videos online, but using a third-party platform to schedule the post, it doesn't matter how good our videos are. They're not going to see them. No one's going to see them because you're using that third-party scheduling
buffer or whatever.
Exactly. They want you to be on the app.
Which is impossible. Like, I'm starting to look in, because I have clients that are looking for social media management. I want to get away from making all my descriptions. I want to be able to have which is easy enough to set up a spreadsheet for reviewing of descriptions, and here's a link to the video, and I could wrap my head around that and do that even just with a spreadsheet, Google Excel or something. But it's the scheduling. You have to be able to parse it into one spot.
Yeah, I know. That's tough.
I've been scheduling through like an app, but yeah, maybe it would be better scheduling it in person. But now, if you have a team behind you, now you're gonna have to give access to all these people.
And trust
it gets
people.
Really sticky.
Yeah,
try to figure that out.
Yeah, not only trust the employee that they won't do anything wrong on your TikTok account, for your business.
So you're really better off just saying, okay, I'm a local business. I'm just gonna do Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Depends where your
depending
audience.
on what you're, find where your audience is, pick 2 at the most, and just really double down on it. Because when you get those scheduling apps, it's very easy to be like, oh, I just check another box, and now I'm posting here too.
Yeah, I mean, again, the game's changed, right? When I started doing Facebook advertising, this was back in the day where they didn't even let you advertise on the main page. It was just on the little side of the, of the corner, and you were paying 1 cent a click, right? Then it got to 5 cents a click, 10 cents a click, but by the 10 cents a click, you could advertise to just brides, just people that got recently engaged,
right, and
hit your niche audience. So it's beyond worth it. Now companies are struggling with getting eyes on their product, their brand, their company, what they do, and they're going to. They're going to keep suffering for at least the next 5-10 years, if not more. One of the things that I would suggest to people that does work, again, it requires a lot of time, is getting your marketing. Divide your marketing team. One person for posting, one person for nothing but interaction. You need to be the company that starts going on Instagram and comments on everyone's stuff. What a lovely picture of you and your husband. What a great time it looks like you had at Disney. I don't care what the heck it is. I don't care if it's one of your competitors, right? People go to your competitor's site and they might see your name of your company there, and it might be dragged over to you, right? So just go and be the nice person online. Go comment on everybody's stuff and build that interaction that way. Because again, right away, then it's going to show TikTok, it's going to show Instagram, it's going to show whatever other platform that you're not one of these robots. That you're actually saying, oh, it looks like you and your husband had a great time at Disneyland. That person's most likely going to then reply to your comment,
right? Which
then you're going to reply again to that comment. So it's going to build that mini conversation to tell Instagram.
Eventually they go to your page and they follow you too.
Exactly. Exactly. Just because out of being nice. Sometimes just out of being nice and going and showing people attention. Not seeking the attention for yourself or for your business, but showing the client the attention that they want can get you a lot of money.
It's kind of like the gear thing where it's like, and I talk to a lot of clients, it's like no matter where they're at, like I'll tell like a local business, be on Facebook, be in local groups. You have a local service-based company. I still think Facebook is like the most relevant for reaching local people. You could target your stuff to local areas, but there's always this fear of like, oh, someone so likes TikTok and says that they're missing out on that, and I mean, or that they're on Instagram, want that, so they want to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you really want to do it right, you probably got to niche down. And what's the biggest ROI, And then maybe once you get the Facebook, like you said, the 2 different people and like really growing that Facebook, and now you're making more revenue, you have more money. Maybe now you can expand into other ones. But if you try to do too much,
if you're going on TikTok right now where you can't even niche down an audience,
right?
You're just trying to hit everybody. You're kind of wasting money.
Yeah,
you're doing a little bit of wasting money, know, and you don't need everybody's eyes anyways.
Right.
It's again what you and I do sometimes. We might be artists. We might be doing short films or weddings or something like that. Sometimes when we're working on a commercial, we're not filming a commercial. We are solving their problem. We are solving the problem that they have with marketing and reaching their audience. Okay? Great example. I don't know if I want to. It's a friend of mine, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind me naming the company. But I'm going to keep it on the wraps right now. But there was a company that I was doing video for. the gentleman was very interested in doing a high-end commercial at the beginning. That's what he wanted to hire me. Just one simple commercial of his business. Now, his business wasn't meant for high-end commercial. And in fact, I have to say, if we would have shot a high-end commercial for his business, it would have actually done more harm for him. Because the perception of when the person shows up to his actual business and what he does has to match.
Right.
You know, I learned that when I did the City of Milan commercials, that I had people stopping me in the street being like, dude, you lied. You lied so bad. You know, Milan's not as beautiful as that. Because I made the commercials look beautiful. We had people kayaking down that little river in downtown Milan. People were like, no one's ever kayaked down that thing ever. You know, what the hell are you doing? Though we were trying to make it grander, make it seem, you know, super beautiful, super family friendly, which it is. It's a great town. It is super family friendly. But we were doing it above and beyond.
Right.
The same, if we would have done that for his business, when the people would have showed up to his business and it didn't give the same visuals as the commercial, it would have left a bad taste in their mouth. So we actually made the commercials crappier.
Right.
On purpose. We involved him. Instead of shooting commercials, said, let's put you in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So then when the client actually shows up because they heard your voice or they got a text from you, they know exactly who they're dealing with, and they already feel comfortable because they watched your YouTube video. You know, now this guy is, at this point, he's making money off his YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So because I did so many
you-
little videos for him that now he's actually also making money off his YouTube videos, and they're educational videos about the industry that he works in.
Right.
You know, so people are extremely grateful that want to buy that type of product. They can go check it out, you know how to do whatever it is with that product. So his clients just feel more comfortable. It was a great way of marketing.
Yeah.
Not a great
I've
way of
always
showing
said,
off.
like, local businesses, that's the edge. I mean, with video, local businesses have a huge edge because the owner can get on camera and talk. Whereas like a giant corporation, there's a marketing team, there's actors, there's script writers, like, it just seems fake. You know, it's like it might as well all be stock footage.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems all picked out of a catalog. But when you have like a passionate person, it's like, oh, I grew up while doing woodworking with my father. He got me into it. There's some music playing. It shows him, you know, cutting some wood in slow motion with the dust going. And he's like, I just like the interactions with the wood and the people that I get to work with. And, well, you know, he's saying what keeps him going and like why he likes what he does.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Oh,
I mean, and it's so personal, and it makes people so connected to your brand, to hear the story behind the brand, to hear what makes you motivated, what your goals are moving forward. That's going to sell.
And not only that, but as simple as, look, you get to choose between a commercial. Nah, your company might be better off with review videos.
Yeah.
Let's get your real clients.
That's huge too.
On camera. Because, you know, that review you got on your website that says Susie B thinks that we are the greatest company, that no one knows who Susie B is. No one knows if that's real or not.
Copying and pasting from Google reviews.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. At least
help.
At least I try to take screenshots of my Facebook reviews, like actual physical screenshots, and be like, "This is an actual Facebook review." But no, if you can get real clients in front of camera, that it's worth a lot more than just a simple commercial. You know?
I like the short form, like about documentary style videos, and I like review videos are huge. It's harder to do that because feel like you're bugging your clients. I understand. You know,
yeah,
but those are.
But what you're talking about is the About Us videos. That's what I call the About Us videos.
Yeah, that's what I call it too. Like I call it a documentary style about video.
It's
my showcase videos.
Yeah, it's a new About Us page on your website, right? Yeah. Or even if you don't want to have that video on your About Us page, put it on your main page. That's great. But at this point, a way that I don't sell to clients because I don't have to sell at this point. But something that I do tell my clients is, at this point, the reality is that we are at a point where 50% of Americans read at a 5th grade level. Mm-hmm. I think around 15% don't read at all. Those people still have money.
Right.
And they might still want your product.
Right.
So let's make it easy for them to be able to know about you and not have to read your 20-page paragraph on your About Us section.
Yeah.
About your company and how you started and this and that. When we can just create a video for you.
And most are going to click on and watch the video and not read a single word.
Not a single word.
Yeah.
The other day I did that.
And what's great about like a documentary style, like about video is, it's evergreen. You can refresh it every year if you want, if you got the funds.
Correct.
But that thing could ride for 5, 10, 20 years and drive people to you.
Yeah.
And also, YouTube and Google are the same company. So when somebody Googles, this in this area, you're going to pop up not only your website, but that video.
Yeah.
And they're going to click on it, and you got the best video out of you and your competitors. They're going to, through that video, they're going to, it's the next best thing next to you sitting right next to them. because they're going to see you on camera. They're going to understand your demeanor, your energy, your sincerity, your passion. So many things come across on a video.
You can say a lot through a video. You can again, it's building that comfort level with your audience, with the potential future client.
Right.
Especially if they get a little bit of a story from you. Now, again, as far as video goes, I believe every company should have video, right?
I think the hard sell is it's hard to get on video. It's easy for, I mean, I don't really have much trouble getting on video. I've heard my own voice. I've already been annoyed by it. I'm past it. Same thing. I've edited video with me in it. I don't really care, but I understand it's a hard sell to tell somebody who is nervous about it. Like, you just got to get on video. You need video, and I don't think a lot of times it's that they can't afford it. It's that they're just not ready for that. It feels like a big leap. Like I'm jumping off a bridge and is this parachute going to open?
but even for that company that's looking for that one viral video, there's companies now that hit you up. They're like, oh, we want to create some sort of viral video and we think this would be funny. Even if you got that one viral video and for some reason it does become viral and people go to your page, you better have other videos on your page as well.
Yeah, well, not just that work the whole funnel, right?
Yeah, they say the same thing with screenwriters. Yeah. It's like you're going to take your screenplay to Hollywood and you're going to shop it around, and a production company is going to say, "Oh my God, we love your style of writing, we loved your screenplay, but this is not the type of movies we make. What else do you have?" And if you have nothing else, that relationship's over right there on the spot. It's over.
Yeah.
Where at least if you know what, I got another 3 screenplays. Let me send them your way tomorrow. That relationship at least continues.
Right.
So it's the same thing with that client going into your page. If you just have that one viral video and then nothing else,
right? It's
like, no. You need that experience for them to, once they capture that viral video, to go look at all your older videos that you've been posting.
Well, with marketing, I think I've gotten it more into like digital marketing side from the video. And a lot of that came from the fact that I would do a good video and then a client wouldn't even have a good funnel set up, or they wouldn't have a good website with a clear call to action. So it's like, I would kind of feel like they were jumping the gun. Like, you don't even have the foundation here, and you're asking for video to funnel people to your business.
Yeah.
So it's like the same thing. If you do a viral video, that's top of the funnel. That's, look at me. You're pulling them in. If you don't have videos all the way down, or
if you're not ready,
the right website to bring them down to submit a form or buy that product, then it's all waste.
Yeah, you're not.
Go from the bottom of the funnel up.
That's
but
hard.
I would see so many local businesses that just, are you giving a video and they would share the Dropbox link on their social media? That's like the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody do that. Like,
I've never had someone do that. That's the next level.
Here's the video. You can download it and share it on your Facebook, level. And then they just share the Dropbox link.
Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Did this happen to you?
Yeah.
No,
more than once.
No.
Yeah. Because I'd just be like, I don't have access to their social or nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm just sharing their video and saying, put it up. And they paid me. It wasn't like a free showcase video I did for them or nothing. It was,
That's crazy though. Just put a Dropbox link. Here you go. Anybody can download it probably too. And oh my God, that's embarrassing.
But I mean, not everybody, you take for, we're pretty tech savvy or whatever. If you're dealing with somebody older, they're just not tech savvy. They've seen the video, they loved it, they wanted to share it. They just shared the same link you shared.
Yeah, I got another person the other day asking me about the short film that we did. Is there any way you can give me that on DVD? DVD? I was like, I don't even know where my DVD burner is. It's somewhere in the house. I know I have one still.
Right.
I have no idea where it's at. I gotta somehow try to find it and see if I have blank DVDs.
Right.
I don't think I do. So it's impossible. But yeah, an older gentleman around his 80s and stuff like that would have had that on a DVD.
Yeah, older people ask for some weird, like I have a community calendar for like the chamber because I did their website, and then like Larry contacted me. He's like, somebody's asking for a list of all the upcoming events, and I was like, the community calendar you can look at it in calendar view, in a list view, in a pinboard view. Like it is. It's an interactive list that you can look at in 3 different ways. He's like, well, they want it like on a list, like they want it typed somewhere, like a list, which I don't know why that would be better than this interactive calendar that you can go ahead and view in 3 different ways.
Yeah.
So I just in my head, I was like, I knew it was probably an older person that's kind of like,
With technology changing, especially nowadays, I mean, this is what we were talking about earlier about getting attention online. With AI coming, that's going to be beneficial for people like you and me.
Yeah.
Right? Not because of our use of AI, but because a lot of these companies are going to just try to use AI nonstop for marketing, nonstop. They're going to push out AI content every single day to their audience, where it's going to start building this mistrust.
That's what I keep saying
of the people out there. It's gonna leave this taste in their mouth where they're not sure about it anymore, or the certain way that it looks. You know, so all of a sudden when you just do a review video with somebody, and you know what, instead of making it perfect, let's actually shake the camera a little bit before we start doing the review video, so people know it's actually real and we're there. You know, that might be more beneficial. For people, for the psychology again, because it's going to be this trust issue in the next 10 years.
I still think just for local businesses and local people in general, it's going to be helpful because, you know, people are going to kind of cling to like what's real, you know. Okay, this is somebody on this podcast, Eze guy. He works in Saline. I'll probably could bump into him. I could follow him, maybe meet him somewhere. You know, like it's real. That's tangible. I don't know if anything else on the internet is real, but this seems like it is. You know, so I feel like people will come back to like the local stuff because it's going to be more, you know, if I go down to the local market, those are real people. I know, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and you know, companies, they're gonna push out this like the same looking thing almost every day on their stories, on their social media, and it's gonna try to fit with their brand, with the colors of the brand.
Or even the ability to shoot something that's subpar and then run it through AI and make it look professional. You know what I'm saying? Like, the world is going to become, the internet's going to become so diluted with that it's going to have just less value.
It's going to feel like when we open an envelope right now that we're like, ugh, it's either a bill or nothing else good, you know?
And if we're honest with ourselves, we know that we gave up too much of our personal interactions already for the internet. So obviously, when the internet starts to become hyper fake and untrustworthy and weirder to follow and understand and grasp and things like that, we will just go back to kind of what's more natural to us anyways, which is like this face-to-face interactions, talking,
which is great. To me, it's great.
Going with community networking events locally, supporting local businesses, artists, stuff like that.
Now again, I'm not anti-AI. You know, I'm not one of those artists that's fully anti-AI. I do think it's a tool to be used the right way.
As a filmmaker, I'm excited because like the idea that I could have an actor on screen, have them say the lines, and then replace them with some high budget scene, you know, like when it really gets good enough to build a prompt and
we never know. Maybe when it does get that good though, that's when they're going to make it very expensive. For you to be able to make those kind of moves and say, you know what, I'm going to make my own feature film here in my house doing this. They're going to say, okay, but it's going to cost you as a $3,000 subscription, you know, for you to be able to do this.
Well, ideally, once they start working out the bugs, you're going to have like companies, you know, Pixar is an example, but you have like a studio that will buy the rights to that technology and then have it for crazy prices. So
they might just kill it off.
They can like it, so they can lock it off.
Or they might just kill it off fully.
Say we only.
They might just delete it and be like, nope, nobody can get access.
Spot right now where it's like the Wild West, where it's like they want to make it, they want to share it with us, let us play with it nonstop, but eventually that'll end. You know.
You mind if I grab a drink over there?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to. Do I got to leave your set? Hold on. Wait for me, people.
So if you made it to this part in the episode, I want you to know if you have a business owner, it's very crucial as we talk about local businesses. You know, they're struggling out there with their marketing, with their websites. They need help. And Michigan Media House is here to help. Also, Eze Creative is here to help businesses in the Saline and Ann Arbor area.
All right, I'm back. Here we go.
That was my little ad.
Nice.
Actually, at one point I told myself I was going to like set an alarm on my phone, and no matter where I was in the podcast, I would just make, oh, hold on 1 second, and then just start looking at the camera. And
like the scene in what was that movie? Truman's World. No, what was it? The Truman Show.
Oh yeah,
the movie
The
Truman Show.
Pick up something
where they start fighting and she starts selling the coffee.
Yeah,
this is pure Colombian coffee.
Who are you talking to?
That is one of the greatest things ever in movie history.
Yeah,
she starts talking right to the camera.
Well, it's like even though they knew he was like onto them, obviously they just couldn't stop with the ads.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's the future of Facebook and Instagram. Nothing but ads.
I still get that sometimes when I'm listening to like a podcast and they'll be like on this like deep discussion about something, but somehow the producer or whatever decided to throw the ad in right there. And it's like it goes from this like deep discussion about something to like, hey, how is your finances? Yeah. So-and-so, you know, like contact the other.
You got your travel plans ready for 2025?
You're like, wow, this is like a real juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if it was a joking moment or something, you'd be like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah, bad timing.
Right.
It's all about timing.
I did one of my episodes, I think it was like 3 or 4. I did actually just throw in a little ad, which turned out pretty good. It's fun. We're playing around out here, you know.
This episode is brought to you by Oxygen. We all need it. So my thing's sponsored by Oxygen. You know? Simple things. My socks. You know, my pants.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maybe I don't even do ads. I just say like gratuity messages, and it's like, this episode is brought to you by hot and cold water in every room of your house that you would possibly want it. Be appreciative.
Yeah,
Have
better
gratitude.
be grateful.
It's like, it's not about the things that you need that I'm trying to sell you. It's about, I'm trying to tell you the things that you already have.
Yeah.
That you should be very happy.
Might not be a bad idea right there. That's what you should do. Sponsored by water.
Right.
Sponsored by Oxygen. Sponsored by, you know, your everyday things.
Yeah. Heating and cooling, HVAC, all of our houses.
Nice.
We go from warm car to warm house.
Nice.
Thanks to modern technology. Yeah, we do. I mean, end of the day, we do live like kings and queens. Like, better than any king and queen ever did.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the technology, for people like you and me at our age range, we also grew up with the technology.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really cool. We went from, you know, hardly no computers at all to all of a sudden everybody having computers, you know. At least for me. You know, I came from Argentina. So again, I tell people I came, imagine 10 years from the past, right? I was growing up with a rotary phone.
I had those. Yeah.
You know, so the technology was always a little bit farther back in Argentina than it was in the United States. You know, I got to the United States and all of a sudden people have cars in their, or phones in their cars. You know, it was still connected with that big thing in the middle.
Right.
You know, people had
Big
phones.
antenna on the roof.
And you were like, what the heck? You're talking on a phone while driving. This is crazy. So yeah, the technology difference, obviously.
I still remember my Uncle Larry popped up. He had one in his truck because he did like dispatching at like a propane place. And when I seen that mounted to the floor, like in the middle of the thing, I was like, phone, it works. Like,
Like,
oh
man,
my gosh,
my uncle
amazing.
must be rich.
Yeah.
That's what you were thinking.
Yeah. It's
Man, my
freaking
dad's got
nuts.
money. He's got a phone in his car.
And then just like, you know, the first little flat screen TVs when they weren't the tube TVs. I remember just having like any second TV was like a black and white TV in a house.
Yeah.
You know?
We went from pagers to freaking now text messages on phones and stuff like that. You know, I remember having to page people. At one point, I bought myself a pager. When I got out of high school, I was like, I'm the coolest guy ever, walking around with my pager. Look at me, ladies.
Was that when they started doing the fun colors? Did you have a fun colored one, or was it
No.
early on when they only came in black and gray?
No, I think they had the fun colors already, but I was cheap.
All right.
So yeah, I think I just got a crappy little pager.
Yeah.
You know?
I see Nokia's coming back out with their like flagship, that old Nokia with the snake
yeah.
on it.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
actually going to bring it back because there are a lot of people who want to kind of like, and we all feel it. There's like this overwhelm that comes from being online all the time. You know, your attention's in 100 different directions because you just go on there. Oh, I'll watch this video. I'll watch this, and then it's like, so instead of just one couple ideas in your head all day that would just kind of get rolled around like a normal, you know, in some music or something. Now it's like you're mentally being ripped in 100 directions. And that overwhelm, a lot of people just want to be like, oh, I'm doing detox, or I'm going to get rid of my iPhone and carry this dumb phone.
We have too much information coming our way.
Way too much.
You know, and that it's a struggle. It's, you know, back in the day, at least people were able to focus on a certain part of their life around the community, things that were happening in the community. Now you have so much info that it almost feels like, right, we're smarter. Oh my God, we know everything that's happening around the world. We know everything about history and everything about science. But then somebody asks you a detailed question about that historical thing that happened, and you don't remember it all. You just remember a little piece of something you heard somewhere.
Because you're not like deep diving into stuff.
Exactly.
You know?
You just got a bunch of
You're not reading a book on
way.
the subject.
Yeah.
You heard a blurb about it.
Yeah, it's like we all have this brain full of
Blurbs.
You know, yeah, or useless information. Realistically, you know, that we can't put together. We wouldn't be able to teach a class on it, but we know it. We know about it. You know, and it's because again, all that information just constantly thrown our way.
Yeah.
I can't say if it's good for humans or bad for humans. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while to see how it turns out. But you know, kind of back to what we were saying about like what we've seen. I've talked about it with Marla. I was like, you know, so I mean, assuming the population keeps going down and people stop, you know, recreating and reproducing, and then we went with AIs, and then the you know, reality gets blurred between AI and human. Like, I really do feel like no matter what, there always will be a value of like people that came from the earth. Like, who knows what the future looks like? It could be, oh, it's a natural evolution. Now AI has taken over, and now they have human bodies. The people like us that were like born from, like, I feel like they would just have to kind of respect that and be like, wow, there's some stories here. There's interesting things. Like, we came out of it. They can call themselves the flowers. Right now, we think we're walking consciousness. Like, we're the flowers of this whole creation, right? But they can look at themselves like that, but they would still value the fact that we came like straight out of the freaking earth. You know, like biological beings that were conscious, you know, and they would want to keep that around, you know.
I'm going to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike has just lost me. He is way smarter than I am. I did not understand half of the stuff that he was just talking about, but I'm going to act like I was
don't think
understand.
they'll kill us.
I understand exactly what you mean, Mike. No, actually, no. To be honest with you, you lost me there for a second. Right. I was like, "Ooh, that went very deep, really fast." My brain wasn't. I was still thinking of cameras and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, I even think our generation has a lot of value just with how many things we've seen. Like how, like,
sure.
Like now things are moving so fast, and maybe like 20 years from now, people could say the same thing because technology moves so fast. But it is wild to think like we barely even had TVs and phones.
Yeah.
And now we have phone TVs in our pocket.
Oh yeah, this new generation's growing up with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Different from us being able to see the rise of all this stuff.
The amount of mediums we've seen. Like now, I think it'll always be a screen that they have. It'll be just fancier or in a different format. But it's like we've seen so many mediums, tapes, CDs.
Yeah. Now again, I can't say that it's bad for humans because back in the day, some lady would be, "Oh my God, my husband's spending all time sitting there on the sofa reading the newspaper."
Right.
And it's like, "Oh, my wife now spends all time scrolling on TikTok."
Right.
Next is going to be, "My husband's always on his VR headsets lost in the virtual reality world."
Right.
Who the hell knows, right? But somebody's always going to be complaining about it, saying that it's bad for us.
And the sky's always falling.
Right. Yeah. So I can't even tell you. I'm not even going to try to act like I'm a smart person and be like, "Yeah, that's exactly what's going on, sir." Yeah, I don't know what's good for us. I don't know what's not good for us. So,
well, Elon did say that there is only like a 20% chance that AI just destroys us. So
yeah,
that's a pretty good odds, I think.
Look, all I'm going to ask is AI, if you need a videographer or a cinematographer, I'm here for you. Don't destroy me. I'm here for you. I'll help you. You can just be my next client. That's what I say when people are like, aliens are coming. I'm like, look, my only concern is if they need video.
They might need some good PR.
Exactly. Yeah. If the aliens need video, I'm all for it. Right? I don't even think any of us would act shocked actually nowadays if some aliens just come down.
Oh my gosh, things move so fast.
I still got my taxes to pay. I still got my bills to pay. Unless you aliens want to come help me or you need a video, like, do your thing. Do your thing. Have fun.
What was that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he's like, they're coming to destroy, or there's a meteor coming, and everybody was just like,
it's on Netflix right now.
They're cracking jokes and stuff, and like doing. It's like it is kind of like how it would be. Like,
but we got thrown with so much stuff lately, specifically the last few years.
Oh my gosh,
with so much info of things happening bad in the world, this happening, COVID happening. That at this point you're almost like, the aliens are coming. That's great. So, anyways, in other news,
right?
Yeah, you just like gonna, just push it off.
Well, it kind of like there's. I had watched this documentary one time, or maybe it was a book, but it was talking about like back in the day, the music industry had like figured out music, and they were like, "We know how to make a hit band." This was back when they were doing NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. Like one of the studio heads were like basically bragging about
Lou Pearlman. That was his name, Lou Pearlman.
He basically said like, "We know the formula for making shit ton of money. We know how to do it. We know what is needed." And this is back when it was like obvious. Bad guy in the band, a cute kid, the cutie guy, this guy, this, what I'm saying? Like, same thing with, obviously different stories in the band. Like, now you're marketing and it's easy. But they had it all figured out. Then, boom, Napster shows up. Completely, like, democratizes the industry. So it's like right when they thought they had the full power, full control, they understood it like the back of their hand, technology just changed everything. Yeah. I feel like we hit the same thing with, like, public relations and propaganda and media. Like I feel like
Netflix.
For a long time there, like the media companies, the big cable media companies, especially when they came online, which I never thought they would figure out. When the internet we all started spending time on the internet. I was like, this is the great equalizer. This is going to fix everything. Like, cause there's no like bullshit here. People are being open. They're having discussions, but then you had like the Fox Newses and SBCs, they figured out the internet and then just brought that divisive content to the internet, just because it's emotional. So I think it got to the point where they almost had it figured out. They had us just eating out the palm of their hands because we both sides. We don't go political on this show, but both sides are corrupt as hell and selling out the country to the highest bidder. And while they try to act, that's why neither side would ever mention corruption and stuff because they're like, well, we're corrupt too. Let's not mention.
But again, put yourself in their situation, right? You own that channel, and your advertisers, the people that pay you money, you need that money to be able to pay your employees to run the show. Period. are telling you it's all dependent on views for TV. So this is before views on Instagram and TikTok. They
also was
were
good for your advertisers. Brand.
exactly. They were always dependent on views. So all of a sudden, again, what gets people attention? The same headlines that all these online things do. You know, that they give you this horrific headline, then you open up the article and you're like, it wasn't even about what
That's
the headline
misleading
talked.
headline.
Exactly. You know, so their job was just to get eyes on there. So of course, when you are dependent on advertisers in use, you're always going to get propaganda.
And it's the same thing for
Always.
politicians who always rely on lobbyists to get money for their campaigns. So you're going to do what your lobbyists, the people who are giving you money, say to do.
Same thing in Hollywood, though, right?
Yeah.
Again, we're directing a movie all of a sudden, and the money comes up to us and says, no, we want this change. We want this way, that way. There's a point where you have to be professional and say, you know what, I'm the artist, but it's not just going to be my way. I understand that this is a system. I understand that this is a business. So I have to also give in a little bit. Now, how much you give in, that's up to you. I'm not saying fully give in, right? I'm not saying never fight back the studio or the executive trying to change something.
Right.
Try to. But at the end of the day, they are the money. They are the ones that are either creating that news program for you or creating that movie for you. You know, and allowing you, not creating it for you, but allowing you to create that masterpiece or that movie. So you have to just...
Well, you're working for a company that has a bottom line, or they're publicly traded, they're beholden to their shareholders. It's understandable.
You have to have a sense of realism.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're in news or whether you're in Hollywood, you have to have a sense of realism. You know, everybody would love to be that artist that goes in there and tells Hollywood to go F themselves. I'm going to go in there, be that director that changes all of Hollywood, and they're going to do it my way. And if some executive comes up to me and tells me to change this in the movie, I'm just going to tell him to F off and kick him off set.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It does not work. It works that way in the movies. That's about it.
But also, it's good that you feel special. We should always feel special.
yeah.
But I mean, what was I about to say? Recently, like one thing that ticks me off, and it's like something that I think also we have to have perspective on that. Like you're trying to share, like, because like recently I seen like just a whole list of companies that got rid of like DEI programs, you know, and I've always thought this. I'm like, they don't give a shit about this stuff. They just go where the current's going because they want to increase. It's a marketing thing, you know. They're not a company that can have values and hold true to their values because they're publicly traded. They have to do what the shareholders say, and their responsibility is to increase revenue for the shareholders so they get a return on their investments. You know.
Oh, they do also what sounds nice.
So we really, like, when they come out and they say, we support this, we support that, I don't care what side they're on. Tell them to shut up because they're not, you know, because if they were actual person and they said, we have these values, we want to support this group or we want to do this, and then they backed out on it because the tides change. If that was a person, you would look down on them. You'd be like, this is not a person of character, of values. Yeah. I don't really trust them for anything. I'm going to stop buying coffees from them. But Starbucks does it. It's fine.
It's a marketing scheme.
Yeah, it's a marketing scheme.
It's like those companies, and I'll have to tell your audience this. I was one of those douchebags back when I started. For every video that you get made from Eze Creative, we plant one tree.
You did that?
Oh yeah, I planted some seeds. I planted some seeds.
Did you do it before Mr. Beast?
Way before Mr. Beast. But it didn't make a difference. I was using it as a marketing thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we planted one tree. I could go to Home Depot, buy a little tree, go put it in the freaking park, and be like, I planted a tree.
Did that get you more work from Ann Arbor?
No, I didn't get any work from that. But it was one of those stupid things that because it was popular at the time, trying to do something nice for the that you use it as a marketing scheme. And that's what I feel a lot of these companies with the whole DEI thing. It's just a marketing scheme.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to sound nice. They're trying to sound involved. They're trying to sound da-da-da. At the end of the day, though, they're a business.
They're going with the current. They're trying to get eyeballs, throw that rainbow thing out there on their logos. But at the end of the day, if the tides change and people are against that, like they kind of has recently, they're gone.
And it's hard. And it's hard to trust people like that.
Yeah.
That easily say, well, it's not popular anymore, so I'm going to go bye-bye and not believe in this anymore because it's not popular.
So it's like if you want to play the game and act like you have morals and values, then it should almost go the other way, where when you back out on the values you once held, you should almost be just like an individual was. People should just back out and not buy from you, not be around you.
Yeah.
Because I know that would be a terrible, if I seen an individual do that, share certain values and then go renege on it, I'd be like, oh, they're not really quality person.
Yeah.
I
would make a joke right now, but it'd be so bad. I'm sure we've all had an ex like that. just going to throw it up there. Whether you're a guy or a girl, I'm sure you've had an ex like that.
Yeah, you can't get over character. Somebody's lying to you.
Yeah, all of a sudden switches like that, and you're like what the hell's happening? I did not know this person.
I'm sure you learned this too. I think I learned that. I was, when I was like a shithead when I was like 12 or 13 and I would lie. I was like, that lying's hard. You got to remember the things you lied about. You don't get to just be, you can live so much lighter.
Yeah.
If you just don't lie and don't do bad things.
Yeah. There was a few times that my life changed. One of them was because I got an award in 6th grade. Those awards that they give kids for whatever. Mine was best excuse maker. And I was proud of it at 6th grade. Then 7th grade came around and I was like, wow, I remember winning that award last year. That's kind of a slap in the face.
It kind of seems like a reverse of reward. It's kind of like a reward for something bad.
Yeah. And so no big deal. I started changing right around there. And then another part of the change in my life was when one of my father's friends, we were at a Christmas party or something like that. Never met this guy. Didn't know him. He never met me in person. But he came up to, he was in the middle of a conversation. I went up to the conversation, try to like butt in and be part, even though it was mostly adults. And he goes, oh, you're Eduardo's son. You're the one that starts everything and never finishes. That was another huge part of my life. To have a stranger that you never met say that to you because that's what they heard about you.
Right.
That gets you to change fast like that, So yeah, when we were younger, we said, my God, I wasn't a liar. I would lie to my dad about my grades in school. Like that's it. That was everything else I'd be super honest about. Right. But when it came to the thing that I knew I was going to get in trouble for, I would hide it from my parents.
Yeah.
I
used to get pretty good at changing like my grades on my card.
Ooh, I did that Lincoln High School.
Subtle
I got you. I did that one time.
There was a certain pen that worked really good, like the Ubisoft, like the really sharp pens. If you go in the really light, you could turn an E to a B.
B minus. You had to put the minus on there. You can't just go straight to a B. You had to put the minus on there. I don't know how my teacher never caught me when I did that. Because I had clearly failed the class.
Right.
And by the end of the year, when she turned in all the grades, it was she left her booklet open. They used to have these green folders with all the grades on them. She left that open and she went to the bathroom. And my God, within 1 second, I was like, it's a good idea for me to run up to that desk and change it from an E to a B. Then I did, and I was like, that looks legit. And I was like, minus.
Yeah.
That looks more realistic now.
I changed it on the card I gave my parents. I didn't do that one.
Oh, really? No, I changed it on this.
I have a couple stories where I've done stuff like that just because seizing opportunity. Like, I mean, what's stopping me from doing that? Just,
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. Again, what was it? American history that we had to pass in order to graduate. The teacher happened to leave his computer open with all the answers to the final exam. You best believe that I copied that. You bet. That's the only way I passed that class. Even though I love history, I'm a history buff. Like I actually enjoy history. For some reason, when I was in high school, it was I didn't even want to pay attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I can't get in trouble for that now, can I? No. Is there a thing 7 years later, 10 years later, I can't get in trouble for? Sorry, Lincoln High School, my bad.
In America, I think it's 7 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think the statute of limitation thing is gone. I think now it can be whenever, but we don't have to.
No. Yeah. They're gonna come back.
It used to be.
They're gonna come after me, being like, you know what? You never graduated high school. You're gonna have to come back and do it all over again.
I remember in recent events when they went after somebody for something that happened like 10, 20 years ago. I was like, man, like one of the first things I learned about law was like that 7-year thing. I remember just thinking like, oh, if I ever do think bad, 7 years. That's stuck in my head. It was like one of the first things I learned about law in America.
I did not know that. Actually.
Statute of limitations, I think it's 7 years. Yeah.
Well, I knew about that, but when I was younger, I 100% did not know about that.
But then when I heard like now they're like, something happened like on a national stage and it was like longer than 7 years. I'm like, what world do I live in? Like the things I thought were real aren't real anymore.
And now, and again, back in the day when we were younger, my God, we could get away with anything. Compared to the kids nowadays, which I almost feel bad for because they got cameras everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Filming everything.
Rings, so many.
And it's like, dude, the things that we did in the past.
I used to go skateboard during the day when people were at work. I used to go skate people's porches because it was fun. I'd go and ollie off this like porch that was 2 feet off because it was like a packed neighborhood. So typically the driveways would be right next to the porches. So I'd go up and do some tricks off we had a couple porches. We'd go skate. Yeah. Now you'd never get away with that.
No, we would do a lot worse things than that.
Jumping people's bushes. We used to do like and all of this is on film too. We filmed it ourselves.
Oh, okay. No, the stuff that we were doing is stuff that would get you arrested today. That would get any of these kids arrested, especially if they were filming it themselves. You know. Breaking into areas that you weren't supposed to break into, egging people's houses, throwing corn off the side of the road at cars because you're in the middle of a cornfield, very immature, horrific stuff that we shouldn't have been doing. That clearly we could have even put somebody in very much danger, but you don't think of that when you're younger. So But nowadays, kids are not even given that freedom. You used to be able to get in a fight with somebody back in the day, and that's it. Like maybe your parents would talk it out between you guys, and that was it. That was the extent. Now it's online everywhere. Yeah. So whether you beat somebody up, you're now the bully because you're in the video. You got your butt beat on the video. You're the one that everybody's making fun of.
You know what else that does too is a lot of times when I got in fights when I was younger, we were cool after that. It was like, oh, it all got out of our system. Like you just felt like you drained out this whatever animosity you had towards each other, this issue. Because sometimes it was with a good friend. You're playing basketball, things get heated, you get in a fight, whatever. Yeah. Or it's built up over time because of something with a girl or something, and eventually it comes ahead. You have a fight. After that, it's like, cool, man. And then you have a conversation, and maybe she was lying. Who knows? But you can make up. But now, when everybody yells "World Star" and pulls out their phones and starts recording, and now there's a video of you getting your ass kicked or this guy getting his ass kicked, now it's like you almost can't even let it go. Because now your ego's hurt. It's on video forever.
And then everybody's in your ears making fun of you or telling you what to do because they saw the video and they were there in the situation, even though they weren't there.
Yeah. Or they seen the video.
Exactly.
So it's like now it just keeps it going longer. When you would have just been like out of our systems, and now we're friends. We're hanging out, whatever.
Yeah. It was the great old days when we were younger. I'll tell you that.
I got a lot of scraps. It was a lot of it was just competitiveness while we were playing sports together or something. Even some of my good friends. I don't know how many. It's just like brothers, you just end up going to the ground.
Yeah, when you grow up, especially with an older brother, you learn real fast, You walk out with black eyes and stuff like that. So yeah, it was the good old days, we're gonna call them. The good old days. I'm acting like I'm old here.
I just turned 40, man. It's coming. I'm already sounding
I'm 41, I'm about to turn 42, so yeah. Yeah. I'm there.
So what age did you move to the US from?
11.
11?
Yeah, I was 11 years old.
That'd be when you think about ages to like introduce a crap load more novelty into your life by moving to another country. That's got to be like a peak age, like 12 to 14. Yeah. When you just kind of started figuring out the world and all of a sudden, boom, you rip from one world to another.
That's pretty much what it felt like. Yeah. And that's always what it feels like too. So in Argentina, English was mandatory. You had to take English in school. Everybody had to take English.
The language of commerce, they say.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I failed every English class. Mm-hmm. My parents even put me on with tutors that they were paying. The tutors should have freaking passed me because they were being paid. Right. They still failed me. So I had a real issue where even the teachers talked to my parents and said, we're worried because I still can't speak English. Mm-hmm. And like, it's fine, but at least if you speak English in Argentina, you have a chance to work for Coca-Cola or Ford or one of these companies where you're going to make a lot more money and you're going to do something different than what your parents are doing. But at the time, it was that mentality of, look, if your dad's a butcher, you're going to be a butcher. Right. If you don't know English and you're not educated. Mm-hmm. So I felt every single year, went even to summer school to take classes, barely passed it in order to just get to the next grade. My dad, when I moved over here with him, he was straight up, good luck. I'm throwing you into school. You better learn. Mm-hmm. And again, within 3 weeks, he just threw me in school. I knew nothing but the word bathroom, hello, and F you, because it's the exact same word in Argentina than it is here. Right. So those are the only 3 words that I knew. My dad threw me into the school, said, good luck. If you pick it up, you pick it up. If not, too bad. Within 3 weeks, I picked it up fully, the entire language, where the school had to call back my parents and said, we're so glad that he's talking, and it's so amazing, and we've never seen anything like it. But now we can't get him to stop. Right. But that was a problem. But now we can't get him to stop.
Now he's talking English too much.
Now he's talking nonstop, So it took me only 3 weeks to learn the language when I was thrown in the situation fully, completely.
That's the best way to learn, too.
Yeah. Had no one else to speak Spanish to, because it was rare to have another Spanish-speaking student back in the day, at your school. So I was the only Spanish-speaking one. I got treated like royalty. Like, I came here and everybody was like, oh, from Argentina? We never met a kid from Argentina and speak Spanish? We never heard Spanish before. So I got treated very, very well when I first came here to 6th grade to the United States. But yeah, 3 weeks, learned the language like that, and then the rest is history. Yeah. The rest I still can't be stopped.
That's crazy. I mean, I remember like the first time I even went to like a Latin American country was like for a video job, and I was 22, 23. And it's just amazing how much time slowed down when I was down there. Went to Mexico City, which is a crazy city to land in. First time like out of the country like that, and then went to Oaxaca and Tehuantepec, and so not Cancun. Just time just slowed down so much. I was like a kid with their mom. I couldn't speak the language very well at all, and But I picked up a lot while I was there. It's just when you're thrown in, like you said.
Yeah.
But man, time just slowed down because every day was just every smell, every color, everything was just new to me.
Yeah.
You know? And then that's kind of what got me into travel. I was just like, oh, traveling is the hack to slow time down.
I was going to say different cultures have different times.
Time goes, and I think time goes faster because there's less novelty. You know, when you're a kid, your eyes are always wide. Every day is so slow because every day you're seeing something new or learning something new.
Yeah,
you get older,
true.
It's just like you're in this autopilot thing.
Well, I was going to say, it's just
some
some
like the
cultures.
movie Click. You're just kind of like.
But some cultures, period, have a slower, almost culture. Their life just goes a little slower than what we're used to here.
I noticed that in Mexico. Like everybody knew their way around a kitchen because there's really no. I pictured there still being McDonald's and stuff and fast food, and there wasn't like Mexico City. But when you get outside of that city, and even Mexico City is not nowhere near the franchises that we would have here. So there's just markets everywhere, and every day you go to the market and you get food and you come to the kitchen. So even if it's somebody you just met, you jump in their kitchen and you're helping prep your food because every day you're cooking your food.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was a big thing I took away too. I was like, man, we really lost that, like in America, like this whole relationship with food and community.
And
like
that the little markets. I love the little markets, man. I'm telling you. I love the little markets. Like even to have to go to 2 different places because you got to buy your vegetables here and your pastas here. It's like, I love it. I love doing that. I don't know why. Something about these big chain stores that I just don't like. It makes you want to go in and just buy everything for the entire week and a half.
Right.
And then half the stuff starts spoiling, especially if it's fruit or vegetables or salad mix, starts going bad right away within 3 days. Where in Argentina, where I grew up, it's like you just walking a block down the street every day or every other day to buy food.
Yeah. Even in Mexico City, when we were driving, you could see like every other block there was another market. You know what I'm saying? Because it has to be right there. It's got to be close to everybody.
Yeah. And we have huge stores in Argentina. Obviously, Carrefour is one of the biggest brands, which is a French company, I believe. That's like imagine your Walmart version.
Right.
So we have those. It's just that still is every single block, or every other block, they still have like a small store.
Yeah.
And the stores are actually called Vamos a los Chinos, which over here in the United States, it might be very politically incorrect because you would just be saying, we're going to the Chinamans.
Oh, okay.
That's because they're usually owned by Chinese people. Very proud Argentinian Chinese people. So we don't, again, in Argentina, there's a lot of words that we use. They're not defamatory at all.
To me, it makes sense. Like I don't get upset that a lot of Arabic people have like stores in the U.S. because it makes a lot of sense because it's a community thing. So it's like they're just passing the knowledge down, or they're passing their stores down too. They're passing it like, okay, my stores are going to be owned by my 4 nephews now. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but in Argentina, again, we have a lot of Chinese influence in Argentina. And we use that name to describe the store. Now, at the same time, I have a friend of mine whose nickname is Chino, which is just Chinaman or Chinese. And that's just their nickname, right? So, again, we use a lot of things in Argentina that would be considered here in the United States extremely derogatory, right? Or a bad thing or whatever, bad language to use with another human, where over there it's just a nickname. Right. You can't go over there. Over there in Argentina, you can look at your girl and be like, che gordita. Over here, you look at your girl and say, hey, fatty. The results are not going to be the same.
Is that what it means?
Exactly.
What you said means?
Exactly. It means little chubby, right? But in a cute way. Hey, little chubby, come here. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how that would come off here to a girl? You just call her gordita. But all your grandmas in Argentina call you che gordita, che gordito, right? My nickname in Argentina used to be negrito, which over here is little black boy. That's the translation, negrito, right? So it wouldn't come off the same here, somebody calling you little black, just because I was darker than my brother.
Yeah.
That was the only reason why I got the nickname.
Well, it's all about the context and the words there. The context is completely different.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't mean, it's a very politically incorrect country because our words just don't have that meaning. They don't get hurt with words. They don't get offended with words. So, again, it's when you're going to the store, you're going to los chinos, the Chinamans. Right. Well, that'll probably get me canceled here in the United States, but I'm making an example, people.
Yeah, I mean, even though sometimes the people that get hurt over stuff like that are the loudest and the biggest complainers, like when you step back and you look at like what comedians are doing and things, it's obvious that it's similar here. The average person doesn't take everything as an insult or aren't out there trying to find a place to be offended or something to be offended about. Most people that you actually want to hang out with aren't doing that.
Yeah, but the United States did go through a part where you guys had a huge cancel culture. thing happening.
Yeah.
To where, again, if you tried doing that in Argentina, just everyone would be canceled.
Right.
Everyone, from the president to the youngest person, would just be canceled for everything that they say and come out of their mouth.
Yeah. Here's a video of you talking about the store.
Yeah, very politically incorrect with everything.
Yeah.
With everything. So it's again, I love that part of my culture. That it's very politically incorrect. Just get it out. You know. If you say something that sounds bad, somebody better ask you for an explanation, and you can just have that conversation with them, and that's it. So as long as you don't get canceled.
I mean, when you're hanging out, that with people, average people, say all kinds of stuff, but I never actually came across or hung around with an actual racist, or like. Or I've seen like older people say stuff. And like, you can't say that. I have come across older people who just have a certain, because they grew up in a different time and they say something. You're like, I don't think you could say it that way. But they're so old at the point that you're like, is it even worth it?
I met those older people, and I'm okay with, obviously they grew up in a different time, so you're very forgiving. And you're like, okay, that sounded funny. You probably shouldn't say that out loud ever,
Right.
Because it's a little politically incorrect. But I have met straight racists.
Really?
Like racist. I mean, I've put my life. I've been in horrible situations before because of that. Not only my own personal life, but also in physical situations. Where one of them was at the Diag in downtown Ann Arbor. Now, again, back in the day where we just handle things ourselves, we didn't even call the police when the guy took a machete out on us. This was not a knife he took out. He took out a thing like this.
Like he was like gone, like a mentally.
He was walking with his friend, very punk looking, long hair, very rock, emo type of look. And I'm having to walk with my best friend at the time, who was, again, in Argentina, he would just be considered just brown. Over here, automatically you're black, So we walk by these two guys, and the guy turns and says something really bad, like, "This is a great night to hang us a."
Wow.
I'm the one that reacted, not him. I'm the one that got beyond offended, not him. So I went after him, and that's when this guy pulled out. A machete. Wow. And my friend Johnny at the time, who should have been the one that was really offended but was not, was the coolest. That situation. He luckily just grabbed me back and just dragged me.
Wow.
Oh, he was like, no, you're not getting into this fight. You're not winning this one. He just dragged me away. Luckily, he did that. If not, I would have gotten it handed to me, I'm sure.
I mean, it sounds right, because you got somebody who's racist like that, and they're also walking around with a machete. So, I mean,
it was next level. Yeah. This was back in the day where some guys would also wear those high boots, like the metal tilt. That's what he had on, one of those metal things, so you can see the metal part of it. Yeah. So I've ran into some real racists.
He had his machete on a big loop chain.
I have no idea where he
keep
pulled
their
it.
wallets on.
No, I have no idea where he pulled it from. It was somewhere like in the back, because I was heading towards him, like little tiny Essie. Oh, I'm gonna come get you,
What you say?
So I'm looking like right at him. So I have no idea where it came from. I just know at one point, boom, and thank God my friend grabbed me at that point. So again, so once you've been in those situations and you dealt with real racists, you're way more forgiven. Of all of a sudden, you see these two guys out in the street fighting, and the one guy says something racist to the other guy. Well, guess what? They're in the middle of a fight, right? Their emotions are extremely high. What did we used to do when we were younger and our emotions were high and we were talking crap to another kid? We would find the thing that would demean them the most, which was usually their sexuality, right? So a guy that's about to fight with you, he's going to try to find something that's going to really tick you off. So you might say some racist stuff. Does that make him an actual racist?
Right.
Because he said something out of the moment, Again, thank God I've never said that. I've never been caught in that situation of saying anything like that. But I've seen it in videos, in person,
Right.
So again, I'm very much more forgiven to be like, I understand. I had a situation. I don't know if you saw the video that I posted with a certain gentleman calling me the N-word, an Argentinian N-word, yelling at me. You did not see this video?
No.
Oh, no. Well, again, I could have taken
video of him yelling.
Oh, I got video. Facebook didn't think it was correct for me to post the video because it had a lot of foul language that he was yelling at me for. So what I decided to do is make a music video out of it. So I took a clip of what he was saying and turned it into like a song, and then re-uploaded the video with a beep, beep, beep.
Right.
So you couldn't hear the N-word. But I've even had that happen to me, and I'm white.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't, and I've been called that out of hatred,
Right.
Out of him just trying to get at me, which I don't know what he was doing,
It's a lack of creativity. Right?
Yeah, it was lack of creativity. Yeah. It was.
It's like,
So.
you look at yourself, you're like, I got all kinds of things you're going to
Yeah,
came after me for.
yeah,
Like, that one doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, he could have gotten me hard for other things because he's a person that kind of knows of me, so he knows some of my backstory. But no, he decided to just go for you're an Argentinian N-word.
Right.
I was like, this is what?
I grew up in a mixed area, all different races there and stuff and ethnicities. And I never really experienced like the level of bigotry that we have over the last 5 years in this country, just, I mean, 'cause to me, bigotry is, or race, same as race, bigotry, racism, same thing. It's just, you're judging an entire group of people based off the actions of a few.
Yeah.
You're not even giving them a chance as an individual to be their own person. You have an idea who this group is, and that's what they are. And it's like, now you see that on both sides, politically, they people judging the other side. So it's like, I don't care what nuanced beliefs you have. If you voted for this person, you are this.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I just, I find myself a lot of times when I'm in political discussions, just mainly pointing that out. Like, this is bigotry. You realize what you're literally name calling an entire group of people.
Just because of the way they voted. At the time, let's just...
Yeah. You've grouped them in. You've judged them all off of the actions of a few that you've seen on the news, and that's what they are.
Yeah.
You think they're all that. And it's like, just, I constantly see myself just standing, and it's both sides.
Yeah.
I've been called a fascist and a socialist in the same day.
Yeah. Oh, I have no problem. Again, I will admit it. I am a conservative who has lived a very liberal lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like, you can be a conservative and be a liberal. Like, it's okay. Right. You know what I mean? You can be conservative about economics or maybe what's happening in schools, right? And you can be a little bit liberal in your own personal life.
Right.
And you don't need to tell everybody about what you're doing in your own personal life.
Right.
But you can still have that liberal mentality if you want. So you can do both. I'm tired of this. You have to be one way or another type of thing. Because people at home are not that way.
Yeah, and we're convinced of that because the sky's always falling. It's like, no, you don't have the freedom to do that today because it's so bad over here.
Yeah, no. So the United States is still the greatest country.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I've lived in multiple countries, not just in Argentina. The United States, at the end of the day, it is the best country for the individual. You might not like it because it's not the best country for the group, but it is the best country for the individual. Right. This is the only country in the world where if you want to be a lazy bastard and not work, somehow you can still survive. Somehow. You try doing that in another country, you're going to starve to death real fast.
Yeah.
So there is a beauty of the United States. There is an appreciation that you have to have for this country, for the opportunities that it can create if you want them bad enough.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand everybody who grows up in different situations, this and that. I've grown up in a different situation. You can still try.
Yeah.
Still try. Still fight for it. Because again, at the end of the day, that's what life is about. It's the trying. It's not about, I want to be happy for the rest. I hate when people, my girl asked me earlier today, hey, are you happy? So what the kind of question is that? Am I happy?
Your daughter? Or
I'm like, no, my girl. My fiance. Are you happy? What do you mean, am I happy? That is a crazy question to ask. Of course I'm happy. I have a happy existence, but I don't walk around 24/7 being happy. Right. I have parts of happiness, parts of sadness, parts of happiness. They come and go. It's the experience of life.
Yeah, it's not a plateau. You just
you can't just live happy, or you can't.
I'm trying not to lose you here, but this thing is called the hedonic treadmill, and it's basically like the measurement of like people's happiness, and we all go like this.
Yeah.
And you might, if somebody who even wins the lottery, might have spike back up and be really happy for a couple, but then it comes back down. So
exactly.
It's like you have this certain oscillating thing.
Yeah.
That's your.
I don't try to chase happiness. That's the point.
That it's not money or opportunity or things that you get. It's like a whole. There's another layer to increase that, But the main thing is just understanding, having that stoic view. There's this good analogy of like a man on a beach, and there's two different men. One guy is sitting on the beach, and when a wave comes in, he's trying to fight the bad waves, and he's trying to hold on to the good waves as long as he can, and fight the bad waves and hold on to the good waves. It's like up and down, and he's tormenting himself by fighting these bad waves and trying to hold on as long as he can to the good waves, and then the other guy is just sitting on the beach, enjoying the waves as they come and go. Like at the end of the day, that's the best place you can be because you're not always going to be able to ride or get to some level where you plateau at bliss and happiness forever.
No.
You're always going to be good and bad, coming and going.
Yeah. Stop chasing happiness, people. Just live your life. That's it. Yeah. Just live your life. It's going to be happy moments. It's going to be sad moments. It's going to be horrific moments, right, in your life. Again, luckily I have both of my parents. There's going to be a time, like for everyone, that you lose your parents, right? Am I ready for that? I'm not sure. I want to be mentally ready for that, right? That is the distinctions a lot of times between somebody that's mentally capable and somebody that's not mentally ready, right? It's when that happens to your life, how you react from that. So again, it's just stop chasing happiness, stop chasing all the stuff, just live it.
Yeah.
Just have fun. Stop searching just to break into Hollywood and just succeed in making it, because you're never going to make it. You're always going to struggle just a little, no matter who you are, right?
And whatever you get, then there's the next stage, the next mountaintop you're going to go for. So
again, how many Hollywood people have committed suicide?
Yep.
My God, how many artists, period.
Well, what tortures you is that fighting, like trying to really fight against the bad and hold on to the good. That is what will like really just drive you crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you really just got to kind of breathe through it all.
Yeah, just live knowing that you're not perfect.
Yep.
Be happy with who you are, as long as you're a good person in life.
Yeah.
You know, that makes it just makes life more enjoyable. Instead of trying to be something.
Right.
Just enjoy life. You know,
I think people get confused too when they see people online. It's like, and of course, online, people are only sharing the high peak.
Yeah.
You know, and even if they're not feeling good, that's their brand. They got to be out there and be like, I'm doing more fun shit today because I'm just that fun person. And then people start thinking like, why is that not me? You know, when they get
that'll get to you eventually. Yeah. You know, if you look at that. But it's like what photographers do a lot of times, just showing the best of the best images on Instagram. You're not showing me everything you're doing. You're not showing me that crappy image that you took. You know,
right?
You're just showing me the best. It's the same thing with these influencers, travel influencers. They're trying to show you the best life that they're living all the time. They could have problems. You know, that Liam Payne kid from One Direction, that was in Argentina, that ended up throwing himself off a balcony.
Wow.
It's like, dude, how much money do you need, right, to be happy? Again, because clearly that doesn't just give you happiness, right? And I'm a big believer in like money can make your life way easier, right? But again, Robin Williams, that all of a sudden, boom, just decides to off himself,
right?
Even though he's filthy rich, I'm sure he had a lot of money, he had a lot of other problems. So again, you could chase for something, it doesn't mean you're gonna get it. And then if you chase for it hard enough and you don't get it, your depression is gonna be next level. Right. So it's just learn how to flow a little bit.
Right.
Learn how to have fun a little bit.
Sometimes
go after your goal.
You have like
but have fun.
Influx of, you know, a lot of these people who win the lottery don't end up in good places.
Yeah.
Because they weren't supposed to have that money.
Yeah.
they
spend it like
and then
crazy.
They end up in a bad place.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, a lot of child stars get really.
I'd be still if I won the lottery, I'd be still driving my same car that I'm driving now. I made myself a promise because I just hit 200,000 miles with my car.
I'm getting close.
And I was like, you know what? I am not getting rid of this thing until it explodes. Like it better like self-explode.
I'm in the same boat with my Prius. Yeah. We both have Priuses.
Yeah.
Smart guys.
They're a beauty. So I have the 2008. I don't know what year you have.
2010.
2010.
I'm riding a little bit better, but not too much.
Dude, my 2008 still has all the original parts.
Yeah, mine too.
Nothing's been done to it.
I had like a transistor pack go on it, and it completely stopped on me. Like I kind of lost power, and then I got off at a freeway, stopped at a stop sign, it turned off on me, but it was under warranty. So they fixed it, filled up my gas tank, didn't charge me nothing.
Nice.
Took it right to the Toyota dealership.
Yeah.
A car that's 14 years old.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then
that's actually great.
I hit some deer, and I was able to replace the front bumper myself. You know, but
they're almost like Legos. I mean, if you want to change the batteries in the trunk, which again, mine still has the original batteries.
Mine does too.
From 2008. I don't know how they're
My
still
buddy has
running.
His is 2006 or something. He's still got the original batteries.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
They say they only run for 15 years or 10 years, but they run a hell of a lot longer than that.
This is a car that, I mean, let's be honest, Toyota lost money making that car.
Well, all Toyotas
it just lasts forever.
All Toyotas will get you over 300,000 miles, you know. And as bad as I want to be a Ford, you know, all my family drove Fords, you know, F-150s and stuff, and I live in Michigan, but at the end of the day, Toyota's made more in the U.S. than Ford at this point, you know, and they make a more reliable car. So it's like, I don't have the money to go buy a car that's going to be a burden to me that I got to fix all the time. And like, you know.
Yeah, no, Toyota's an amazing brand.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, let me be politically correct here, Mrs. But Nissan is amazing as well, because I love doing the commercials for Nissan. So, Nissan, I love you, make amazing cars as well. Just, I don't want to get in trouble there. Yeah. I love you, Nissan.
There's a Nissan, like, smaller truck they're making right now. And a guy at work has it. And every time I see it in the parking lot, I'm like, that's a sharp-looking truck they got.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of cars that they're making.
It's like their Tacoma kind of style trucks that they sell. It's a sharp looking.
There's some cars that they make here, but they're only selling it overseas, by the way.
Well, I notice that all the time. When I go overseas, I see vehicles. I'm like, man, I wish we had those. Like, there's, I guess, some nice old Toyotas. And
when you're filming
cars.
all of a sudden and you pan the camera around and the Nissan guy comes rushing up to you and be like, you can't get that car in the film. You can't get that car in video because of some specialized car that they're only going to sell in Europe.
Yeah, a lot of manufacturers have cars that are only in other countries.
Yeah.
You can still go down there and buy one and bring it up, but they don't sell them here. Yeah.
I always thought about having a Renault, a Peugeot.
Yeah.
A Peugeot. Let's say it the right way, like croissant. Peugeot. I don't even know if that's how you say Peugeot, so people online are probably going to get at me. Peugeot is a French company as well, I think. I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they make them, I think they have factories in Argentina as well.
Yeah.
Where they just make
Probably
some
be
in
hard.
Argentina.
Even if you bring in a Toyota that they don't sell here, it's going to be hard getting parts. But with the internet, not too bad.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go in an AutoZone, get a part.
No, again, I haven't walked into one of those in forever because of my Toyota Prius. Thank God.
I love that. Prius has been great to me.
Yeah.
And I bought it cash and don't have no payment. And I probably still got another 100,000 miles I can drive it.
Well, you get on YouTube, you look at the videos. People with their Toyota Priuses from 2008 at 500,000 miles.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Like, how? Explain this to me. I've had cars die on me at like 90,000 miles.
Right.
So, yeah, the fact that they made such an amazing piece of technology is just...
I like to get a Tacoma.
That's what Sony should have done with their cameras instead of having their cameras overheat. Yeah, we're giving you a hard time. He's got the FX3 though. That's not a problem with the FX3.
Oh yeah, that one's the powerhouse for sure.
That was the what was it? A7 III, which I have one at home. I just never use it. I'm not a fan. Yeah.
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 Is it which one's is it pretty much the exact same thing, different body? Is it the A7S III?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, that's when they figured out when they introduced like the S-Log and everything. I mean, they figured out their colors. Their colors are fine now. Because I was in the same boat when I was first shooting Sony and shooting Canon, and the first Sony started coming out. I was watching videos, and they had some color, like casting in their colors that were off. But they figured by the time FX3 came out and stuff, that was kind of the time when I was getting disappointed as a video producer. Canon just wasn't there for the video producers. They got too cocky. Like they had the market.
They dropped the ball.
Completely dropped the ball.
Yeah, they dropped the ball majorly, and then they almost didn't focus on the consumer who wanted to go professional. Mm-hmm. They either had consumer that wasn't that great, and then just full blown out cinema cameers.
Yeah, no,
for like $15,000,
$17,000,
and you're sitting there like, I think it was a C100 that came out, C200 that came out, C300 that came out, and they were all super expensive. So it's like you could, and then that was just for the body.
Yeah.
And then the lens, the thing around,
with
blah,
the
blah,
growth
blah,
that happened with DSLRs, introducing video people, and I understand want to be true to photographers, like Canon kind of. I think that they almost put their nose up and was like, no, we're
Even though Canon, Canon, the 5D Mark II was one of the first cameras, correct me if I'm wrong, that offered video in their photo camera.
Oh yeah,
was a Canon 5D Mark II.
They introduced the whole DSLR filmmaking thing. Yeah, but
and then they were
between that and the internet and more producers coming in, whether it was film or photography. Like you said, they didn't make the path. They just no creativity with product development and.
It was like Kodak almost, except for they didn't go as bad as Kodak
kind of thing. Where you had Sony just sitting there and they were throwing stuff out there, throwing just see if this sticks. Let's see if this sticks, and grinding to take over the market. And sure enough, now.
Yeah, the FX3 is a great camera. What was that movie that the cinematographer used it on?
That with the AI robots.
Oh my God, it was a good movie. What was it? It was beautiful.
Not Oblivion.
No,
it was.
That also was a good movie. I do like that one with Tom Cruise.
I bought that movie.
Oh man, we're both trying to think of the name of it right now. The actor did a phenomenal job. That little girl that played the AI robot or the robot with a hole in the head or whatever.
The behind the scenes, I ended up buying that movie on iTunes, and the behind the scenes are really cool. They did a lot of those scenes and
Now they used the FX3. Mm-hmm. The internet blew up,
and they used like a $100,000 lens.
So that plus everything was being recorded externally. Mm-hmm. So they were just using the FX3 as just a...
They were doing raw.
Yeah. So it's... The FX3 got a lot of credit for that movie, but at the end of the day, it really was, the technology all mixed together that was able to provide that. Mm-hmm. So again, it's, buy yourself the camera that you're going to use the most. Yeah. And that it's not going to be so expensive. If you're trying to just get into film...
me being able to say that I have a Netflix-approved camera doesn't help me really good jobs.
Yeah, no. First, it doesn't. Right. And then second is, are you actually going to make that Netflix movie?
Right.
It's always the question: Are you actually going to make the damn Netflix movie? You know. And Netflix will take anything anyways. They say that they're Netflix approved cameras. They'll take your phone footage. If it's good enough, if it's popular enough, if it's got enough ears behind it and eyes behind it, they will take your footage. Like no problem. Even
the phone
if it wasn't
footage
shot
is
with
fine
a
as long as you wipe your lens off before you start using it. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't wipe their lens off and they got grease or you know, and it looks all, you get the streaks in the light.
Unless you're doing it on purpose, maybe for certain parts of the wedding, if you're outside and you just like start like on your lens and you just like blow on it just to get that like little weird like, you know, ghost almost image. I've done that a couple times. There's so many
people out there that I'll see people and I know they update their phone at least every 2 years, and their photos always look like crap. It's like because they like greasy food and they don't clean their lens. So it always looks like an old phone or something.
Yeah,
you're like,
well, that's the problem. We gotta figure out the way to fix lens caps so that we don't keep losing lens caps all the time. And not just hanging them out. You know how some people just have that little cord hanging. And it's like, no, we can't have that. There's got to be a way that this can be protected.
I try to have like a dedicated spot. Either it goes right in the same slot that my lens was in. Yeah. Or which I even right now I'm kind of back to where I used to be, where I have one lens. So I have the 24 to 70, you know, with the same aperture all the way through, and typically I'm just using that one. So
gotcha.
But usually it's in the same slot the lens came out of or in my pocket. Okay. I haven't lost too many of them.
Oh, I've lost so many, man. So many lens caps. In fact, I have rented cameras and lenses from companies like got to give a shout out to Camera Mall in Ann Arbor. You know, great people. But I've rented lenses from them and I have brought them back. Lenses that I didn't even use on set. We rented them just in case because we might need them. Didn't use them except for maybe check them out, look at them. Oh, that looks cool. Put it back in there. Lens cap gone. And I had to be at the store there with them saying, hey, George, can I just buy another lens cap from you guys so you put it on your rental? Because I've lost the lens cap for you.
They probably charge you an extra $10.
They charge me $14 for the lens cap or whatever, you know, $10 for the lens cap, whatever it is, which I have no problem, obviously. It's like, please, my fault. You know, I disrespected your equipment in a sense by losing your lens cap. Yeah.
I've rented from them as well. There.
But I wish somehow lenses, you know, came with maybe not like a little hood on it, but something that was just built in with a click.
Like a little shutter
lens cap, just boom, close it right there. You know, I think old video cameras used to have like the old Canon, I forgot XVH something cameras used to have like an actual thing that would close down in front.
Almost
of the
like
lens.
the shutter, like the aperture, like the aperture does, but on the end.
Exactly. Yeah. To protect the lens. Yeah.
You think they would be able to sell something like that? I mean, a lot of times, sometimes I don't even have the cap on. I usually have a protector on there, an ND filter or something. So I usually carry like a little cloth in my, you know, when you do that, you always got to be wiping that top of the lens off. But that's like the main thing a lot of people, you know, if you want good footage, whether it's with your phone or whatever, well, wiping that lens down is key.
Yeah.
I've even seen good video people that don't clean. Just one more thing to think about.
I made the mistake before. I'm not gonna lie. I made that mistake before. Well, all of a sudden, you know, I'm showing up at a wedding and I'm maybe running late and I'm packing my stuff and I just happen to take it and I grab it, just put fingerprint right on it and start shooting. And again, because you're looking at a little tiny LED monitor,
especially
if you don't have
a monitor on it.
And then you grab your camera, you're like this, and then you grab it and you turn it and you happen to just look at the lens and you're like, oh, let's reshoot all the detail stuff again, the shoes there, because I don't know how it's gonna, you know. So you have to be very meticulous. And again, those are situations where it's very high. You know, you're running like you
really
said,
fast. With the whole experience thing, there's all kinds of little things, and you probably got to make every mistake before you become really reliable. You're not gonna have a clean lens one time. You're gonna put the mic in the headphone port of your camera and not get the audio. You're gonna do the, you know, you're saying like so many different things that you're gonna have to make the mistake once and have to beat yourself up over, so you'll never make the mistake again.
Yeah, and you will make it again. This is the funny thing. I've worked with a lot of professionals, right? I've gotten to work with celebrities from Hollywood, and I've even seen them screw up, right? And not get technical things right or terms the correct way, because it doesn't matter how long you work in the industry. Like you're always going to mess up, right? You just have to kind of let it go, not take it so seriously. One of the first things I did on day one of that movie Get Real, it was actually, they were about to slate the scene. And for some reason, I, as a cinematographer, yelled out, rolling audio? Not my job at all. I have no idea why it even came out of my mouth.
You're used to wearing all the hats. So
I'm used to wearing all, And it was just, oh my God, the audio guy probably wanted to kill me. You know, Adam, sweetest guy ever, Adam Wilkinson. He did the audio for that movie. He probably wanted to just end me at that moment when I was rolling audio.
Trades. What are you doing?
Yes, thank God we didn't have union. Yeah, thank God the unions weren't there for that film. But because then I would have gotten a fine or something.
Right.
So,
that's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least with like a big set, like the next time I do want to do another short film. My last one did pretty well. It was fun to like put it in some film festivals, and we got a couple awards. So, like I'm an award-winning filmmaker now.
Yeah.
That's what you do too when you make films, and you think it's funny too. Let me ask your opinion on this. Like I think it's funny. If you get nominated, people will take that on the road and be like, "I'm a." What's the one for filmmaking or what, like is it Emmys, Grammy nominated? So let's say,
that's for music, yeah.
Oh, Grammy's not music. What's
Emmys are for TV.
Yeah, so let's say Emmy nominated, and that doesn't even mean that you were one of the finalists. You were just in the pot of, so you put in an application pretty much. But people will take that on the road and say, "I'm an Emmy nominated filmmaker."
Yeah.
I don't know any other industry like that you could say.
Again, this goes back to you're not impressing anyone above you. You're doing that to impress everyone beneath you. I don't want that to sound bad. But people that are not maybe at the same level than you to maybe support you. You're using it as a marketing scheme. Being like award-winning.
The same thing with like if you win an award with your short film, you could say you're an award-winning
But nobody cares. The guy down the street that owns a restaurant doesn't give a crap if you walk in and say, "I'm an award-winning filmmaker."
Right.
It's like, no, how can you solve my problem? We're just getting more people inside this restaurant through video. Like that's the end. At the end of the day, I had a friend of mine.
Or your short films can, like you said before, you have a collection of short films. Someone lets you edit their project, they can look at your past work, say, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah.
And it looks a little bit better with those badges on it.
Yeah. But I had a friend of mine who, great filmmaker, came from LA to Michigan. Surprisingly, it was getting too expensive to live in LA. Started trying to work with local clients here, and he met with me about 3 months after moving. I'm not understanding what I'm doing wrong. And I asked him, please go step by step on me, like, how are you approaching these clients? And he was approaching it with the Hollywood mindset. My God, we're going to come in here, we're going to film this amazing thing, and we're going to have these explosions go off over here and this over here. And it's like, bro, these business owners just don't care about that. They don't care about your fancy, twancy commercial. They just want to know, is it going to work to bring people in? They want to know that there's
what's the ROI?
Yeah, return on their investment. That's it.
Right.
So you can go out, you can have that energy and that mentality.
It's not a vanity project for them to like make their business look cool.
Exactly.
It's an investment for them.
Yeah.
And they want it to deliver results.
And you have to talk to them in that manner.
Yeah.
You have to learn, again, how to talk to. Now, if you go to Hollywood and maybe talking to some other people about a project, don't talk to them like you talk to that business owner. Or maybe. I have no idea. I can't really give you a great example of that one.
Right.
I have a lot of friends who are in Hollywood. My chance hasn't been over there to already go and start selling projects to Hollywood or talking to executives. I just have a lot of friends that have done that through their lifetime. So I gathered their experience and sort of the way that they deal with how they pitch projects, how they sell the next thing. So yeah, it's two different ways of selling.
Yeah.
Two different ways of, again, our industries are all different.
Yeah.
Just because you want to be a filmmaker doesn't mean all filmmakers are the same.
I think it just always amazes me because that's like one of the few industries or competitive things that you would be in where you'd say, I'm an Emmy nominated or Grammy nominated filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I got
an odd thing,
My cinematographer, my good friend of mine, Howard, he's got a bunch of awards in his office. He doesn't not walk around going like, I'm an award-winning filmmaker. Like, again, his clients don't care about that.
Right.
And it doesn't help him with his future projects. Now, if maybe we were doing the marketing for his next documentary that were coming out.
Or a movie,
we would use that on the title.
Yeah.
It's for marketing.
Yeah, Howard does like war documentaries or something.
Yeah.
There's a couple different like topics that he's kind of hit a couple times.
Yeah. In fact, I just had an email come in asking me for documentary editing work, and I sent it to Howard. I gave the guy Howard's contact info to say realistically he focuses more on that. I would love to do that, but at this time I got 4 different commercials happening in the next couple months. I got my wedding coming up that I'm planning for, and I have to execute my wedding. So the last thing that I can do is pick up another full project, just to sit at home and edit. So yeah, you send that one to Howard. Hopefully he'll be getting that guy and doing another documentary. So it's about the opioid crisis in the United States. It would have been a little too heavy for me too.
Yeah.
Like right before my wedding.
It seems like that's probably been done, but it needs to be done like really good for sure, because that's definitely a problem. I'd like to do a documentary someday, but probably something, my own project, something I really care about. Cause, I mean, I've shot so many interviews and I've edited so many interviews. I feel like it's a natural thing, for a topic I care about.
Yeah, you have to care. When you're in documentary work, again, you're not doing it for the money. Mm-hmm. You're not doing it because, oh my God, I get to travel all over the world. Yeah, you'll travel a lot and be put in the worst places. Mm-hmm. It's like the friends of mine that used to say back in the day, I want to work for National Geographic. Well, I had friends that worked for National Geographic. Mm-hmm. They would tell you to run away from National Geographic and not work for them, because they would put you in the most horrific spot there for 3 months just for one shot.
Right.
So wait for that one day that you get that one shot, and the whole other time you're just wasting time. You're not doing anything.
Yeah, we don't see all that hell. We just see those beautiful documentaries.
Yeah, and that's it,
And those shots that just come and go.
Yeah, they're not like, oh, I was there 3 days and we hardly had any food and I got that shot. It's like most photographers wouldn't be able to
every
put up
shot
with that.
in the National Geographic documentary is somebody that went through some kind of hell, probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whether it was hiking their stuff back there, sitting for weeks, like you said, for that one shot.
Yeah.
Like getting ate up, getting, who knows, into their gut biome.
Yeah. Put in dangerous situations just for a picture, Yeah. So again, you're looking at the image just like we're looking at Hollywood or red carpets, and it looks glamorous. Mm-hmm. It is the farthest thing from glamorous. Mm-hmm. There are little key moments where, again, the actress might feel like the princess because she gets to walk down the red carpet. Mm-hmm. The rest of the time, it's nothing but phone calls and nothing but being told no, 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 no. You suck, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not this enough, we need an older actress, we need a younger actress, we need somebody that can speak Spanish, somebody that doesn't speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. Like nonstop, it's just hearing no, no, no.
Oh yeah.
So again, we only get to see that, the glamorous, the red carpet events, they're getting out of limousines. We're not seeing their real lives every single day and how they struggle every single day.
I've been on enough sets to see how those like days can drone on, or like, or a day that you thought could be really productive ends up not being productive, or you know, or everybody's under the gun and stressed, or it's
tough.
a grind.
Yeah, it's tough. Again, for everybody, one of the most depressed people I ever met in my whole life was an amazingly beautiful actress. Mm-hmm. Beautiful girl. Had no issues with her beauty whatsoever. But in her mind, she did. Mm-hmm. And because she believed it so much in her mind that she did, it would just bring her down. Mm-hmm. And bring every day on set, pretty much. Not every day, but every other day. Yeah. On set, she would have this thought in her head,
And we're all susceptible to be pulled into that same thing.
Yeah.
It's the ups. You have the ups and downs. This is what you're focused on, and then she has the good moments, but she's probably not enjoying the good moments because she's thinking about all the bad stuff. Yeah. And then that just attracts more bad stuff. And
it was tough for her, but again, everybody's dealing with it. Again, the most highest celebrity in the world is dealing with that kind of stuff. Yeah. I hate that people just think they're celebrities, so they must have a perfect life. Oh, once you've been around them, like you realize that not only are these normal people. Mm-hmm. But like some of them have a lot more problems than you do. Right. Like a lot more problems than you do. So I've never been jealous of celebrities. I never wanted to be them. In fact, when I got to work with them, I was very much of the mindset of they are the same quality that I am. And I'm a nobody, so I don't give a crap who they are. Mm-hmm. And I had that mentality, and I would talk to them like that. I would never approach, Ellen Page, for example, that I got to work with, or Drew Barrymore that I got to work with. I would never approach them with, oh my God! Hi,
really
Drew Barrymore.
My life
can you
when
please?
I watched that.
Yeah, can you please read my screenplay?
Yeah.
It's like I'm not wasting her time.
Yeah.
Like I was there to help her accomplish a job, not for her to do something for me.
I also get to stay like when I work around like celebrities that I'm like purposely want to be really cool. Like what I'm saying? Like I see everybody else like, oh, what are they doing? It's like I want to be the one that's I don't really care.
Yeah, you're just like whatever.
I want to be different.
But a lot of times they love that. Yeah. They love that. So one of my greatest experiences was when I was in the film of Whip It. And the Whip It film was hanging out with Andrew Wilson. So it's Owen Wilson's brother. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, for some reason, don't know him. He's a great actor, too. Mm-hmm. Super long hair, hippie. And we would just go outside and smoke cigarettes. Mm-hmm. That's it. It was a cigarette break, And I got talking to him just because of soccer. Mm-hmm. Because I knew him and his brother were into, like, playing soccer on the weekends, And that's how the whole conversation started. He was like, you like soccer? I'm Argentinian, bro. Yeah. It's a religion to us, So, and that's how the conversation happened. Every time you see me by, you got a cigarette? And we just go out and smoke a cigarette. Yeah. I didn't act like he was some famous dude or like his brother was Owen Wilson and eventually he could give me a shot Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know how many friends they got that would also like shots in the industry, and they don't know you. They're not going to give you a shot.
Yeah.
You better have something to offer them.
There's also the other side of that, which is like people automatically being like kind of mean or rude to celebrities, or thinking like, oh, why are you sad? You're rich. You know, it's like they want, you know, it's like it can be the other way too. And you're also always in the public eye and being judged. So anything you do, you're doing the same kind of stuff that another person would do, but the entire world's, instead of just your mom or your aunt judging you, the entire world's got an opinion about what you're trying to do.
It's tough.
You know?
It's tough. It's not an easy life, and it's not for everybody.
I wouldn't trade. And I don't think most people, I've talked about this, a lot of people, like, we're so dedicated with our own stories, are so involved in them, our arcs, or wherever. It's like we wouldn't want to hop off this timeline to jump into another timeline and be somebody else, a celebrity or somebody wealthy. You know? Yeah. I want to see how this plays out.
Again, if that happened to me, I'd be hiding in the middle of like Utah. Right. You guys can't ever find me. You know, one of the people that I love the most that would inspire me, not to follow his exact career, but to get similar to what he did in his lifestyle, would be Werner Herzog. Where he's just, you know, one day I'm going to go film a movie. The next I'm doing a Broadway play. The next I'm just working with the kids at the school. Right. What the hell? Yeah. Like, you're Werner Herzog. Why are you working with kids at the school? Why
you see, I respect that too. There's a couple artists I can think of that do the same thing. It's like because they got this freedom. So with the freedom, they wanted to just have to do new things. You know, they're still living like a kid. You know, they want novelty. They want to experience new things, and they're pulled where they're pulled. And I can go do whatever I want.
Yeah, he was in that Star Wars show, in the Mandalorian or something like that, at the first Mandalorian show, and he appeared as like the bad guy, right? That wanted the baby Yoda. That's Werner Herzog, the director, right? Acting in a Star Wars show, but randomly
are spinning.
At like 70-something or 80-something years old. The guy's almost 90. Yeah, you know, he's still doing whatever the hell he feels like. Right. You know, so it's like that's the kind of career that you can kind of inspire. Right. You know, to be like, I want that freedom. I want to work on a Hollywood movie, but the right one. Yeah. The one that
when artists walk away, and a lot of times they're judged for it when they walk away from the thing they're known for. I mean, even I think Bob Dylan did that when he picked up an electric guitar. People were like, "What the hell are you doing with electric guitar? Grab your acoustic," you know. And he's like, "I don't need this." He ran off, got a house, invited a bunch of musicians, made some amazing albums. Yeah, you know. And I respect them. Like, that's what you want. Like, that's a creative person, and they're trying to push their creativity. You know, same thing with an artist, a musician that changes up their, you know, just like him, he changes his style, but they come up with a new album. A lot of people will want to judge it. This is different than your old stuff. It's like, don't you? It's Like, once you give it another listen, because a lot of times on your second or third listen, you're like, oh, I do like this. They're pushing your musical taste. They're pushing their musical taste. They're pushing yours. Yeah, you know? That's what it's all about as artists, is to be pushing that.
And again, you know, what did you get into it for? Yeah. If you got into it for art, you don't mind.
The average person, they're going to say, why are you changing up what works?
Well, again, that's why I said earlier, you know, you have to do it for you, but also for the audience. Right. And there's nothing wrong with just doing it for you once in a while. Yeah. There's a lot of directors that only direct movies for them because they love the story and they wanted to see that story. They didn't say, oh, the audience will love the story. And yet, some of the greatest movies out there, because they were being selfish and just thinking of themselves. You know,
the ones that push the envelope and reinvent things or end up, you know, some of the biggest grossing are just somebody's weird vision that didn't fit anything that was normal. Yeah, you know. But so we can start wrapping this up. Let me hear. What's your current plans? I know you were getting married, right?
Yeah, I got my wedding coming up. Yeah, very much like planning a short film. It's a wedding. I mean, you're looking for the venue so you can shoot it. You're looking for the catering so you can feed your crew.
So you're doing great at wedding planning.
You're looking for your talent, which in this case would be the photographer, videographer, DJ, you know, instead of actors. Right. So it's very much like planning a short film or producing a short film. So it's very easy for me, you know. My fiance now, she is the greatest girl ever. And she's actually given me a lot of free reign to plan this wedding, which is the opposite. Because trust me, I'm talking to the vendors and the vendors are like, a guy on the phone planning a wedding?
Are you sure you don't want to call your wife?
Exactly. You know, I get that. Like, you got to check with your future wife on this? And I'm like, nah, dude, this is what she wants. You know, I do the planning. You know, I'm pretty good at this planning thing with a wedding. So I'm taking over it a little bit. She's focusing more on the details, like what goes on the tables, decorations, flowers here,
seating
flowers
arrangements.
There. Exactly. Those kind of things, you know. So we work great as a team. That's awesome. It's going to be an amazing wedding because we're both working really much as a team. We both know our strengths and weaknesses, what we're better at, and we both allow that room, to not only for her to take over something or for me to take over something because I'm better at it, but then to also help each other grow.
Oh yeah.
Say, you know what? Let me show you how to maybe do this or show you how to do that. So the wedding plan is going perfectly. I hear horror stories from people about their wedding planning. I'm like, this is the greatest, easiest thing ever. Now that I'm going to become a wedding planner in the future, thank God.
I feel like you'd be a great wedding planner. No. You wear that blazer and have a trapper keeper. I mean, you look like you're playing the part. Like,
no. This is the last. No, I came very much Italian in that Italian mindset today of like.
I know you showed up and I was like, man, I think I have a blazer. I should.
No. You're good. You're good. No. It's it's the wedding that I have going on right now. I have because of my mentality, I have a lot of things that I'm doing trade for the wedding, right? Okay. So this is not a normal wedding. In order to be realistic, there's no way that we were going to get in debt over a wedding. No way. I would not spend one single dime that I don't have for a wedding. So our goal was pretty much to make it happen, not only lower budget than everybody else has recently, because the average cost for a wedding here in Michigan, cheapest, maybe around $30,000. So that's already huge. Right, yeah. I'm going to cut that by more than half and still have an extremely high-end wedding. Now, the reason why I was able to do that, it was because friends or people that I've helped out in the past or people that I'm helping out in the future. So with Heidi, for example, who's doing our photography, we're doing trade services. So she needs advertising help, she needs marketing help, she needs commercials for her business. Boom, trade services.
Right.
Flower lady who owns a flower shop, same thing. Doing trade services with her. So we're getting
bartering is tax free.
Yeah, bartering is tax free, and I mean it's very valuable.
Right,
you get a lot of things.
I've done a lot of that too.
Yeah, so we're able to keep the budget down, and it's going to be phenomenal. We got one of those clear top tents. It's going to be lit all the way around the venue. Oh wow! The venue is like this. My friend's private backyard, which is really a whole other property, but it's his backyard. It's humongous. We're putting a 30 by 60 tent on there, and there'll still be room.
Wow.
In there. So yeah, we're gonna light up the place. We're gonna make it look really, really nice, and the food's gonna be phenomenal. I have my friend who owns Christian's Catering. He does a lot of like the U of M alumni stuff. He used to do the president's house at U of M, so he does more high end food. So we're gonna get spoiled. We're gonna get spoiled with some good food. I know one of the dishes is gonna be beef tenderloin with a mushroom reduction sauce.
Oh, wow.
So that's the first dish. The second one's like a chicken with sweet cherry reduction sauce on it. And then, of course, all your basics, your salad, your bread, your potatoes, your vegetable, your pasta for people that don't eat meat. But we decided to keep the wedding smaller and go with like higher end stuff.
Right.
Than just have a big wedding and then sacrifice the good food for our guests and do all that stuff. And
now, again, to me, plans for a honeymoon?
No, or not yet. No, not yet. No.
Plan in the future.
Yeah, plan in the future. Yeah, we're more of that. Because, again, her job where she works, she does a lot of video and photo like I do, except for she works with a really good company, let's just say. I'm not going to name them right now. It's not important. So she's she loves her job. And but she already took time off for the year. So we need to wait like another 6 months after our wedding for her time off to start kicking in again, to take a honeymoon. So, yeah, honeymoon, I think we're doing something simple, like either just going to one location,
camping.
Yeah, some sort of like resort, all paid resort, something that we don't have to worry.
I really liked your guys' footage when you went on your guys' camping trip. Yeah. There's just a lot going on there. You came back with a lot of content.
Yeah,
throwing knives and
that was throwing knives. I enjoy throwing knives and axes. But no, that was the one that you saw. The footage that you saw, I think, was our second camping trip. But that was when we became boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah, I took her camping and I asked her.
She seems great. When you guys had us for that short and. Yeah, she was there for you and taking photos, and she was great to talk with, and she's always seemed great to me.
No, that's what I'm saying. The most important part of my wedding for me is just watching her walk down the aisle. As long as I can see her walk down the aisle.
When they get married, it's like it's you do all this planning, and it's like max RPMs, especially leading up to it. It's like, and I would see so many weddings happen and talk to brides after and stuff, and they all say the same thing. It's like, trying to slow down on that day. Like when you put that dress on, it's time to slow down and just try to soak it all in. Be a sponge. Yeah. Like, because it's going to be over so fast.
Well, everybody at my wedding, most people at my wedding, not everybody, a huge chunk of the people at my wedding are going to be wedding vendors themselves.
Right.
That have worked in. So it's going to be so hard for us to actually be like, today we don't work.
Right.
Today we just relax. Today we do our normal thing like all the other couples that we've watched a million times do.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm sure it's going to be a little tough. I'm going to have to get my mind off,
Right.
photo and video or whatever. But I'm just hoping to enjoy. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not hoping to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to marry my dream girl,
Right.
which is perfect, right? She used to, when I first met her, I thought she looked like the girl I used to have a crush on when I was little. What's her name? I don't remember the actress' name. She played Kelly in Saved by the Bell. I don't know if you remember what she looked like, brunette and stuff like that. So yeah, right away I was like, oh my gosh, she looks like my crush when I first came to the United States. I used to, like that, Kelly from Saved by the Bell. Of course, we all thought we were Zach. So didn't work out so great for some of us. Messed around in life too much.
Well, it turns out that well, not Zach, but who's the other guy? He's still around. He's one of
the Hispanic guy, Slater. He used to play in the show. Slater, yeah.
I did a job where he was there.
Yeah, he's not working in
that.
entertainment television.
And actually, I could throw him on the bus. But the lady I was working with, went to go back and talk with him. Mm-hmm. She came back like, oh, he's like Papa's asshole. Like just, you could just tell he was just kind of shoo-shooing her.
Yeah, so it all depends. Again, I give very much open freedom to this. I have been in places where I have seen celebrities be hustled by people wanting their signature, and they're sitting at a restaurant with their family and their children.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, you understand why.
This was at Ford Motor Company.
They would get up and be like, get the fuck away get the F away from me,
Oh yeah.
Because they're not there for you to just make a show out of them.
Or even if you're hired to be someplace, like he was at the Ford Motor Company for a Latin American event.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's getting passed around. You got hired to be there, but everybody wants to come and say hi to you. You get introduced.
You don't know anybody.
Eventually you probably do start getting a little bit short or whatever.
Yeah. His wife could have called and just bitched at him 10 minutes before you went and talked to him. Exactly, because he's human, because he's got problems going on, So again, I'm very understanding of a lot of people and their situations that they have going on, especially when you're on set. You have to be kind of very forgiving when you're on set. It's not a close, tight family. Don't fall for that, oh, we're a family when we're on set thing. It's not like that, right? But people are still going to bicker and fight and roll their eyes at each other, and you have to sort of know how to deal with that.
Right.
And you might have somebody that loses her crap on set, right? And you still have to deal with it. You can't just shun them and be like, no, go away, because you had one moment of weakness. So yeah, it's just be very forgiving, be a very, chill person, and everything will work out for you.
I hear you. I appreciate you making the drive and coming on, man.
Thank you.
And, I'm sure we're gonna work together, hang out together.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
It's always fun chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Sweet. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.